Chapter 1. The Night of Blood. The first scream cut through the forest like a blade. Arya froze where she stood, clutching the basket of herbs she had gathered before nightfall. The sound wasn't distant. It wasn't muffled. It was close, terrifyingly close. Her chest tightened. This part of the woods was dangerous after sunset, but she had lingered too long by the stream, hoping to collect enough yarrow and wild mint to sell in town tomorrow. Now the shadows had grown long, the trees whispering like watchful giants, and the night had turned against her. Another scream. Will. Then the unmistakable sound of snarling. Wolves. Her village had warned her. Never travel alone at night, never wander into the thicker woods where rogues roamed. She had laughed it off, believing wolves were just wolves. But the guttural sound tearing through the darkness now was no ordinary animal cry. Carried intent, hunger, a rage that was almost human. Arya dropped her basket, herbs spilling into the dirt, and ran. Branches clawed at her dress, roots caught at her feet. The wind slapped her hair across her face, stealing her breath. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to get away. But she was not fast enough. The growl came first, deep and resonant, making the ground tremble beneath her boots. Then came the eyes. Two burning coals in the dark, narrowing on her like she was prey. A rogue wolf. Its fur was patchy, scarred from countless battles, saliva dripping from jaws that looked strong enough to crush bone. It stepped forward, blocking her path, lips curling back to reveal teeth that glistened in the faint light of the moon. Arya stumbled backward, heart slamming so violently against her ribs she thought it might burst. She grabbed a broken branch from the ground, her only weapon, though it felt pitiful in her trembling hands. The wolf snarled, muscles bunching, ready to spring. And then everything changed. A blur of movement slammed into the rogue from the side. Another wolf, larger, faster, stronger, knocked it off its feet and pinned it to the ground. The two beasts clashed in a frenzy of claws and teeth, their snarls echoing like thunder in the trees. Arya could only stare, rooted to the spot as terror mixed with awe. She had never seen wolves fight like this, never seen anything so brutal and yet so mesmerizing. The rogue tried to sink its fangs into the throat of its opponent, but the larger wolf moved with terrifying precision. It dodged, twisted, and then bit down hard, silencing the rogue with a single devastating snap. The forest went still again. Arya's breath came in ragged gasps. The massive wolf stood over the body of the rogue, its chest heaving, golden eyes burning like liquid fire as they turned to her. She should have run. Every instinct screamed at her to turn and flee, to get as far away from this beast as possible. But her legs refused to obey. Something in those eyes held her captive. Not just danger, not just power, but recognition. As though he knew her. As though he had been looking for her. The wolf stepped closer, slow and deliberate. Arya stumbled back until her spine hit the rough bark of a tree. Her makeshift branch weapon slipped from her fingers. She could barely breathe. The wolf lowered its head, sniffing the air around her. She squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for the bite that would end her. But it never came. Instead, warmth. A wet nose brushed against her wrist. A sound rumbled from the wolf's throat. Not a growl, but something softer, almost possessive. Arya's eyes flew open. The wolf's golden gaze locked with hers, and in that instant she felt it. A spark, a jolt, like lightning racing through her veins. The air seemed to thicken, the night pressing close, and her body trembled. Not from fear, but from something far more confusing. The wolf pressed closer, nuzzling her hand as though to reassure her. Its fur was warm, thick, and strangely comforting against her shaking fingers. "This isn't real," she whispered, though her voice was barely audible. "This can't be real." But it was. Because when the wolf pulled back, its body shimmered, rippling as though the very air bent around it. Bones cracked, fur receded, and before her eyes the beast transformed, shrinking, reshaping, until a man stood where the wolf had been. Broad-shouldered. Naked, save for the shadows that clung to his powerful frame. His eyes, Still that burning molten gold never left hers. "You're mine," he said, his voice low, rough and certain. Arya's knees buckled. She gripped the tree behind her, dizzy with shock. What are you?" The man stepped forward, the moonlight catching the hard lines of his face. His jaw was strong, his hair dark and tousled. His body scarred from battles she couldn't imagine. Every inch of him radiated dominance, authority, danger. And yet, when he reached for her hand, his touch was gentle, almost reverent. "My name is Kale," he murmured. "Alpha of the Blackthorn Pack." Alpha. The word rang with power, even though she barely understood what it meant. "You shouldn't be here alone," Kale said, his voice softer now, though no less commanding. "The rogues would have torn you apart." Arya swallowed hard, trying to find her voice. You saved me." His lips curved, not into a smile but something darker. "I didn't just save you. I found you." The way he said it sent another shiver through her. Found her. As though he had been searching. Kale lifted her hand, bringing it close to his mouth. His eyes darkened, pupils expanding until they nearly swallowed the gold. "You feel it, don't you?" he asked, his voice husky, dangerous. "The bond." Arya shook her head. "I don't understand." "You don't need to. Not yet." He leaned closer, his breath warm against her skin. "All you need to know is this. You are mine. My mate." Her heart stuttered. The word was unfamiliar, but her body reacted as though it had been waiting her whole life to hear it. Heat rushed through her veins, her pulse racing faster with every second his eyes held hers. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "That's impossible. I'm human. I can't be." "You are," he cut in, voice sharp, final. "Fate doesn't make mistakes." His certainty frightened her more than the rogue wolf ever could. Because some deep, hidden part of her believed him. Some part of her knew he was right. Kale released her hand, but not her gaze. "You don't have to believe me now. But soon you will. The bond doesn't break. It only grows stronger." Arya pressed herself against the tree, her breath coming in shallow gasps. She wanted to scream, to run, to deny everything. But when Kale leaned down and brushed his lips across the faint scar his bite had left on her wrist, sealing the mark he had given her during the fight, her entire body lit up with fire. A sound escaped her throat, half gasp, half whimper. Kale's eyes burned brighter, satisfaction flickering in their depths. "You're mine, Arya," he whispered, her name rolling off his tongue like a promise. "And I'll kill anyone who tries to take you from me." The forest around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, a girl who should have been prey, and the alpha who claimed her as destiny. Chapter 2. The stranger with golden eyes. Arya didn't remember falling asleep. One moment she was standing in the woods, Kale's burning eyes locked on hers. The next, she woke to the smell of smoke and the faint creak of wood beneath her. She sat up with a start. The air smelled faintly of pine and leather, warm but foreign. The bed beneath her was far too soft, the blanket heavier than anything she owned. Her hand went instinctively to her wrist, where a faint scar marked the spot Kale's fangs had pierced her. It was real. Her gaze darted around. The room was wide, built of dark timber and stone, lit by the glow of a fire in the hearth. Thick fur rugs covered the floor, a table stood in the corner, and weapons, actual blades and axes, hung along the walls. Not her home. Not the village. The panic hit her like a wave. She scrambled out of bed, bare feet hitting the rug, her heart hammering so loud she swore it echoed. The door creaked open. "Good," a voice said, deep and smooth. "You're awake." "Oh." He filled the doorway, taller than she remembered, dressed now in dark trousers and a loose shirt that did nothing to hide the muscles beneath. His hair was still damp from a recent wash, his jaw rough with stubble, his eyes, those molten golden eyes, fixed on her as though she were the only thing in the room. Arya backed away instinctively, clutching the blanket to her chest. "Where am I?" "In my pack house," Kale replied, stepping into the room with a kind of ease that said this space belonged to him as much as the air did. "You're safe here." If she almost laughed at the word. She was in the den of wolves, surrounded by people who weren't people at all. Safe was the last thing she felt. "You had no right," she said, her voice shaking more than she wanted. "You had no right to bring me here." Cale's head tilted slightly, as if amused by her defiance. "Would you rather I left you in the forest for the rogues?" The memory of snapping jaws flashed through her mind. She bit her lip but didn't answer. He stepped closer. She stepped back. The dance continued until her back hit the cold stone wall, and Cale's shadow loomed over her. He didn't touch her, not yet, but the air between them vibrated with something dangerous. "You're human," Cale said softly, almost like a question. "Fragile, breakable. And yet—" His hand lifted, brushing the air just above her wrist without making contact. "Fate bound you to me." Arya shook her head, desperate to push back against his certainty. "You're wrong. There's been a mistake." Cale's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Fate doesn't make mistakes." Her throat tightened. His conviction terrified her because it resonated with something deep inside, something she didn't want to admit. Cale stepped back at last, giving her space, though his gaze never wavered. "You'll stay here until it's safe. The rogues are restless. They'll come again." Arya's hands clenched in the blanket. "I can't stay here. Have a life. People who'll be looking for me." "People?" His brows lifted. "You mean the villagers who shun anyone they think is different? The same ones who send you into the forest alone because they won't risk themselves?" Her jaw dropped. "How do you?" "I know everything that happens in the valley," Cale cut in, voice low, sharp. "You think your people protect you. They'd have left you for dead the second the rogues attacked." She wanted to deny it, but the truth stung. The villagers tolerated her, nothing more. Her father had died years ago, her mother followed not long after, and Arya had been left to scrape together survival by trading herbs and remedies. No one had come for her when the wolves appeared. No one would. Cale must have seen the flicker of pain in her eyes, because his expression softened, just slightly. "You don't belong there," he said quietly. "But here—" He paused, letting the words sink in. "Here you're mine." The statement landed like a stone in her stomach. Arya wrapped the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "You keep saying that. Like I don't have a choice." His eyes darkened. "Because you don't." Her heart skipped. The bluntness of it both infuriated and unsettled her. Cale crossed to the fire, pouring himself a drink from a jug on the mantel. His movements were calm, deliberate, as though her panic meant nothing. He sipped, then glanced at her again. "You'll come to understand, Arya. The bond between mates is not something you can escape. You feel it already, don't you? The pull." Her lips parted, but no words came. Because she had felt it. That strange heat, the spark when he touched her wrist. Even now, with several feet of distance between them, her body reacted to his presence. Heart racing, blood surging, an awareness that made it hard to breathe. But she refused to give him that satisfaction. "I feel nothing," she lied, forcing steel into her voice. Cale's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. For a moment, silence stretched between them like a drawn bow. Then he set the cup down and crossed the room in 2 long strides. Arya flinched as he braced one hand against the wall beside her, caging her in without touching her. His face hovered inches from hers, golden eyes burning. "Then why," he murmured, voice a dangerous whisper, "does your heart beat like a drum every time I come near?" Her breath caught. She hated that he could hear it, hated that his wolf senses betrayed her body's secrets. Cale leaned closer, his lips brushing against her ear. "You can deny it all you like, little human. But your soul already knows the truth." His words sent a shiver racing down her spine. She forced herself to meet his gaze, though her knees trembled. "If you think I'm just going to submit to this, to you, you're wrong." Cale's smile was sharp, predatory. Good. Her brow furrowed. Good. I don't want obedience, he said, stepping back at last. I want fire. A Luna who challenges me. A mate strong enough to stand beside me. The word Luna hung in the air like smoke. She didn't even know what it truly meant, but she understood enough. He wasn't just claiming her as a lover. He was claiming her as his queen. Arya's stomach twisted. Every instinct screamed to fight, to escape, but her heart betrayed her, pounding with a traitorous rhythm that echoed his words. Cale moved toward the door. Rest, he said, pausing with his hand on the handle. We'll speak again at sunrise. The door closed behind him, leaving her alone with the fire's glow and the thundering of her pulse. Arya sank onto the bed, burying her face in her hands. The wolf who saved her was no ordinary beast. He was a man, an alpha, with eyes that saw too much and a claim she didn't understand. But worse than that, far worse, was the whisper of her own soul, answering him in the dark. Chapter 3 Bound by the Mark. The knock came at dawn. Arya jerked awake, heart racing, her hand clutching the blanket tight to her chest. The fire had burned low, leaving only glowing embers, and the air smelled faintly of smoke and pine. The door creaked open before she could answer. Cale stepped inside, already dressed in black trousers and a fitted tunic. His hair was damp again, as if he had risen before sunrise to run through the forest in wolf form. His golden eyes found hers instantly, scanning her face like he had been waiting all night for this moment. You didn't run, he said simply. Arya bristled, pushing herself up on the bed. You locked the door. A shadow of a smile tugged at his mouth. True. But a mate's bond doesn't let either of us go far. Even if I hadn't, you'd have stayed. She opened her mouth to argue, but the words caught. Because some part of her knew he was right. She hadn't tried the window. She hadn't searched for an escape. Something had tethered her here, something she couldn't explain. Cale crossed the room, carrying a bundle. He laid it on the bed beside her. A dress. Deep green, finely made, the fabric softer than anything she had ever owned. Wear this, he said. Her brows knitted. Why? Because, his gaze darkened. My pack will want to see you. Arya's stomach dropped. She hadn't forgotten the way the rogue wolf had looked at her like prey. If Cale's pack was full of wolves like that. No, she said, voice sharp. I don't belong here. You do now, Cale countered, tone even but final. They need to see you. They need to understand that you're mine. She swallowed hard. You can't just decide that for me. His golden eyes blazed. Fate decided. I only follow it. The air between them thickened, that strange spark humming again under her skin. Arya looked away quickly, fingers tightening around the blanket. Cale's tone softened. They'll resist you. They'll hate you at first. But you're stronger than you think, Arya. Show them that, and they'll bow. She stared at him, stunned by his certainty. It wasn't a request. It was a prophecy. The pack house was larger than she expected. Cale led her down wide halls built of timber and stone, lined with furs, lanterns, and old portraits of Alpha's past. The place smelled of pine, wood smoke, and something darker, the unmistakable musk of wolves. Everywhere she turned, eyes followed her. Some curious, others hostile. Whispers rose as they passed. A human. Impossible. The Alpha's lost his mind. Arya's cheeks burned. She kept her chin high, refusing to let them see her fear. Cale walked beside her like a shield. His presence enough to silence most of the murmurs. But not all. They reached a large hall, its ceiling high, sunlight streaming through open slats. Wolves and humans alike filled the space, though she quickly realized the humans were not truly human. Their movements were too sharp, their gazes too predatory. Pack members. Dozens of them. At the far end stood a raised platform. Cale stepped onto it with her at his side. The room fell silent. Cale's voice carried easily, low but commanding. This is Arya. His gaze swept the crowd, daring any to interrupt. She is my mate. The words crashed over the hall like thunder. Growls. A ripple of outrage. A man near the front, broad-shouldered with silver hair at his temples, stepped forward snarling. She's human. She's mine, Cale corrected, his voice sharp as a blade. She's weak, another voice hissed. She'll get us all killed. The council will never allow it. She isn't one of us, a woman spat, her dark eyes flashing. You insult the pack by bringing her here. Arya's pulse thundered in her ears. The weight of their hatred pressed down on her like stone. She wanted to shrink, to vanish. But Cale's hand brushed hers, steady, grounding. Fate has spoken, Cale said, his tone cold, final. She carries my mark. Any who challenge her challenge me. He lifted her wrist. The faint scar from his bite glistened in the morning light. A visible claim. The hall erupted. Growls, protests, shouts of disbelief. Arya's stomach churned. She wanted to scream that she hadn't asked for this, hadn't agreed. But the look on Cale's face silenced her. He wasn't bluffing. He would fight them all if he had to. And terrifyingly, they knew it. The silver-haired man bared his teeth. You're condemning us, Cale. The council won't forgive this. A human Luna. It's suicide. Cale's gaze locked on him, golden eyes like fire. Let them come. I don't bow to the council. I bow to the moon. And she is the moon's choice. The defiance in his voice sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. Arya's chest tightened. She didn't understand this council, this world of wolves and bonds and fate. But she understood one thing clearly. Cale had just set himself against them all, for her. And whether she wanted it or not, she was at the center of a storm. That night, Arya couldn't sleep. Cale had ordered a chamber prepared for her, though it was little comfort knowing guards stood outside her door. The whispers of the pack echoed in her head. Weak, human outsider. She paced the room, staring out at the moonlit forest. A soft knock startled her. The door creaked open, and a woman slipped inside. Younger than Cale, with sharp features and eyes like storm clouds. You shouldn't be here, the woman said flatly. Arya stiffened. Who are you? My name is Celine, she replied, her tone dripping with disdain. I've been in this pack since I was born. I've trained. Bled for them. I was meant to be Cale's Luna. Arya's stomach lurched. I never asked for this. Celine's lips curled in a bitter smile. It doesn't matter what you asked for. I chose you. And because of that, you've already made enemies. The council will never accept you. The pack will turn against you. And when Cale finally realizes how weak you are, she leaned in close, her breath hot against Arya's ear. He'll regret wasting his mark. Arya's blood ran cold. Celine straightened, her gaze cutting. If you have any sense, you'll leave before this destroys us all. Then she was gone, leaving only silence and the pounding of Arya's heart. Chapter 4. Trial by Moonlight. The council chamber smelled of smoke, old wood, and the iron tang of tension. Torches flickered along the carved stone walls, throwing shadows that seemed alive, snarling, shifting like wolves prowling for blood. Arya stood in the center of the ring-shaped chamber. Her wrists bare but her pulse pounding like she wore shackles. Dozens of golden eyes gleamed from the tiers above her. Elders, betas, old alphas who'd stepped down but never truly surrendered power. They looked at her the way a butcher looks at an animal that had wandered into the wrong slaughterhouse. And beside her, towering, unyielding, and bristling with fury, was Cale. The alpha's hand hovered at the small of her back, not quite touching, but radiating a heat that made her spine straighten. His presence was both shield and brand. It was clear to every wolf in the chamber. She was under his protection. And that, perhaps, was the very problem. Human. The word cut through the murmurs, spat from Elder Varric's mouth as though it were filth. His beard was gray. His posture stiff with decades of command. You stand in the chamber of wolves, claiming a bond that does not belong to your kind. Arya forced herself to meet his stare. I claim nothing. The bond chose me. Her voice shook at first but steadied on the last word. A ripple of disdain echoed through the chamber. Some laughed bitterly. Others snarled low in their throats. Varric's lips curled. Convenient words. But bonds are sacred. The moon goddess does not weave threads between beasts and prey. At that, Kale stepped forward, his growl vibrating the very stones. Careful, old man. You question her, you question me. Gasps rose. No one interrupted the alpha lightly, not even an elder. Yet Kale's voice dripped with unflinching authority, each syllable edged with promise of violence. Still Varric was bold or foolish. I question only what defies law and tradition. A wolf may rut where he pleases, but he may not bind his soul to. Kale's snarl cut him off. Enough. The air turned electric, thick with a predator's promise. Arya could almost taste iron in her mouth. She wanted to shrink, to vanish into the shadows, but something hot flared in her chest. Defiance. She stepped forward, just enough that the torchlight painted her face. You think me weak because I was born without fur, without claws. But when Kale found me, when death was on me, it was not your goddess who saved me. It was him. And when I looked into his eyes, something ancient and undeniable snapped into place. Her heart thudded painfully, but she didn't falter. So tell me, elders, if the moon goddess cannot bridge a bond between human and wolf, then explain why I feel his heartbeat in mine. The chamber went still. Utterly. Even the flames seemed to pause, listening. Kale turned his head, eyes glinting with something unreadable. Pride. Shock. Hunger. Elder Varric's face purpled with fury. Blasphemy. Truth, Arya countered. She was trembling, but she refused to lower her gaze. And no council decree can unmake it. Murmurs rippled louder now, a storm breaking against stone. Some wolves were outraged, others curious. She caught more than one expression that wasn't disgust but calculation, intrigue. Kale seized the moment. His voice thundered across the chamber. The bond is real. I feel it as she does. The wolf within me, my beast, kneels to her. Who among you dares to deny what even the goddess has allowed? Elder Mireia, the only woman among them, leaned forward, her sharp eyes narrowing on Arya. If the bond is true, then the trial will prove it. Arya swallowed. Trial. Mireia's lips curved like a knife unsheathing. Trial by moonlight. If the bond is a lie, the goddess will burn you both. If it is real, she will spare you. The chamber erupted in agreement. Some voices bayed for blood, others called for justice. Kale growled. No, I won't. Arya touched his arm, surprising them both. Yes, she said softly, though her stomach twisted into knots. She knew what agreeing meant. It meant risking her life. But if she refused, they'd call her a coward, and worse, a fraud. Kale's eyes flashed at her, fury warring with reluctant admiration. Arya! She straightened her shoulders. If the bond is true, we have nothing to fear. He leaned down, his words a low growl only she could hear. Or everything. That night, under a swollen moon that gleamed like a blade, the pack gathered in the sacred clearing. The trial site was a ring of ancient stones, etched with runes older than kingdoms. Wolves circled the space, their breath steaming in the cold air. Arya stood barefoot in the center, the earth icy beneath her toes. She wore a thin shift of white cloth, ceremonial but cruel in its fragility. She felt exposed, small, like prey about to be unleashed into a hunt. Kale stood across from her, stripped to the waist, his scars gleaming in the moonlight. His eyes locked on hers, fierce, unyielding. Elder Mireia raised her staff. By blood, by bond, by moonlight, we call upon the goddess to reveal truth. The crowd howled, the sound rolling through the trees like thunder. Arya's heart slammed. The moonlight grew brighter, painfully so, pouring down on her like molten silver. Her skin burned and she gasped, dropping to her knees. Kale snarled, lunging forward, but invisible force shoved him back. Pain licked across her body, searing like fire under her skin. She clawed at the dirt, every nerve screaming. Was this the goddess rejecting her? Punishing her for daring to stand in a wolf's world? No! Kale roared, fighting against the unseen barrier. His wolf surged within him, desperate to break free. You will not take her. Arya screamed as the burning reached her chest, then suddenly, impossibly, it shifted. Became warmth. Became light. Her vision blurred. She saw Kale's face through the haze, his eyes wide, glowing gold. And then she saw it. Threads of silver, radiant and pulsing, wrapping between them like vines of moonlight. Tethering heart to heart, soul to soul. The crowd gasped as one. Even the elders rose to their feet. Mirea's voice trembled. The bond, it is real. The barrier fell. Kale rushed to her, scooping her up, holding her like she was more precious than life. His wolf howled, the sound raw, victorious, defiant. Arya's head dropped against his chest. She could still feel the silver threads humming inside her, binding them, undeniable. But as the crowd erupted, some in awe, others in outrage, she realized something chilling. If the bond was this strong, then breaking it would not just kill her, might destroy him too. And in that truth lay both their greatest power and their most dangerous weakness. Chapter 5: Whispers of Blood. The pack did not leave the clearing in silence. They dispersed in a storm of sound, some wolves howling in victory, others snarling in fury, many whispering in sharp conspiratorial tones. The trial had ended, but its echo would ripple like thunder for weeks, maybe longer. Kale carried Arya in his arms through the throng, his chest heaving, his jaw locked tight. Wolves parted before him, but not all bowed. Some bared their teeth as he passed, silent challenges that made his wolf twitch beneath his skin. He ignored them all. His only focus was the fragile, trembling figure in his hold. Arya's head rested against his shoulder. Her skin was slick with sweat, her lips pale, her breathing shallow but steady. She wasn't broken, but she wasn't untouched either. The trial had burned something into her, something invisible, yet permanent. When they reached the Alpha's lodge, Kale kicked the doors open and barked at the healers waiting inside. Bring water. Bring herbs. Move. The healers scrambled. Arya stirred weakly as Kale laid her on the bed draped in wolf pelts. She blinked up at him, eyes glazed, and whispered, "Did they see?" Kale crouched beside her, brushing damp hair from her forehead. "They saw." His voice was hoarse, raw. The bond lit the sky itself. No one can deny it now. Her lips curved faintly. "Then we won." But Kale's expression darkened. Victory breeds enemies as quickly as it breeds loyalty. Far from the Alpha's lodge, the council gathered in the shadow of the stones where the trial had taken place. Torches burned low, and the wolves' faces were grim. Elder Varric paced like a caged beast, fury radiating from every movement. The bond should not exist. It defies centuries of law. If we accept this human as Luna, we spit on the goddess's design. Elder Mireia watched him coolly, fingers tapping the staff she leaned on. And yet the goddess spared her. "You saw the threads yourself." Varric snarled. Perhaps it was trickery. Another elder, lean and sharp-eyed, shook his head. "Trickery does not call down silver fire. No, the bond is true." "Then the Alpha is cursed," Varric snapped. "And with him the pack." Mirea's lips thinned. "Cursed or chosen? Be careful, Varric. Dismissing what the goddess allows is dangerous." But Varric leaned closer, voice low and venomous. "Dangerous is letting a human sit on a throne built in blood. Mark me, if she becomes Luna, it will be the ruin of us all." The others exchanged uneasy glances. The debate was far from over. Arya woke later that night to the sound of wind howling through the shutters. The room was dark, but she could feel Kale's presence. Heavy, warm, protective. He sat in a chair beside the bed, his head tilted back, eyes closed but body tense, as if even in rest he stood guard. For a long moment she simply watched him. The rise and fall of his chest, the faint scar slicing across his shoulder, the way his hands curled into fists even in sleep. Then her gaze fell to her own arms. Her skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight seeping through the shutters. Frowning, she lifted her hand. The faintest trace of silver lines pulsed beneath the surface, vanishing when she blinked but returning when she looked again. Red. She sucked in a breath. The same thread she'd seen during the trial, now etched into her. What am I becoming? Cale stirred, instantly alert, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Arya! She dropped her hand. It's nothing. Just the trial still lingers in me. He leaned forward, scanning her face, as if trying to read the truth she wasn't saying. At last he sighed, his hand brushing her cheek. You shouldn't have accepted it. The trial could have killed you. Her throat tightened. And if I hadn't, they would have torn us apart anyway. His jaw flexed. He couldn't deny it. Cale, she hesitated. What if Varric is right? What if I don't belong here? What if I doom you? He growled low, the sound vibrating through the bed frame. Don't speak that again. You belong because you are mine. The pack will see it, or they'll bleed for their blindness. His possessiveness should have frightened her. Instead, it ignited something fierce and trembling in her chest. She whispered, and if I'm not as human as I thought? Cale stilled, his eyes narrowing. Explain. But she couldn't. Not yet. She didn't have the words. Only the terrifying silver glow beneath her skin. Far beyond the borders of Cale's territory, in the shadowed forests where another pack made their den, a scout arrived breathless before his alpha. They've confirmed it, the scout said, bowing low. The Dark Fang Alpha has bound himself to a human. The rival Alpha leaned forward, his grin sharp and hungry. A human Luna. What a weakness to exploit. The night ended with the world tilting around Arya. She lay awake long after Cale drifted back into his light, guarded rest. Pack was divided. The council was scheming. And somewhere beyond the trees, unseen enemies stirred. Her fate was no longer just her own. The wolf who had saved her was her mate, yes. But in that bond, she had not only found love. She had inherited war. Chapter 6. Fire in her veins. The training ground smelled of dust, sweat, and blood. Morning mist still clung to the earth, but the clang of weapons and the snarls of sparring wolves shattered the peace like glass. Arya stood at the edge of the arena, her fingers flexing nervously at her sides. She wore leather training gear that fit awkwardly on her frame, too heavy in some places, too tight in others. Cale had insisted she stand among his warriors, not as a token, not as a fragile guest, but as someone who would prove she had the strength to claim her place. Eyes forward, Cale ordered, his voice sharp as steel. He stood beside her, arms folded across his chest, a towering presence radiating command. The warriors gathered in a semicircle, some shifting restlessly, others watching her with open disdain. Most were men twice her size, their bodies sculpted from years of combat. Even the women among them radiated raw, predatory power. Arya felt their doubt like arrows in her skin. "This is your Luna," Cale announced, his voice booming across the field. "Question her right to stand beside me, and you question me." The murmurs that rose were uneasy. Loyalty to Cale was unquestioned, but loyalty to Arya was another matter. Arya lifted her chin, her heart pounding. She would not let them see fear. Cale turned to her. "Choose your opponent." Her stomach lurched. "What?" His lips curved in a dangerous smile. "Prove yourself." The crowd stirred. Some smirked, eager to see her humiliated. Others frowned, as though the Alpha had finally lost his mind. Arya scanned the circle. Every warrior radiated menace. Every choice felt like stepping onto a blade. But she spotted one. Yarrick, a tall, lean wolf with a cruel smile. He'd sneered at her during the council's gathering. He would not go easy. "Yarrick," she said, forcing steel into her voice. The warrior stepped forward, his grin widening. With pleasure. The fight began with no ceremony. Yarok lunged fast as lightning. Arya barely dodged, her training sword clumsy in her grip. The crowd jeered. Pathetic. She won't last a minute. Human blood has no place here. Arya's throat tightened, but she kept moving, parrying clumsily, ducking under his swings. Kale had taught her the basics in stolen hours, but this was no lesson. This was survival. Yarok pressed harder, his strikes brutal, calculated to break rather than test. Go home, little rabbit, he taunted. You'll never be one of us. Something inside Arya snapped. She wasn't a rabbit. She wasn't prey. As he swung high, she dropped low, rolling beneath his arm. Rising behind him, she slammed her training blade into the back of his knee. He stumbled, cursing, and she spun, landing a wild but solid blow against his ribs. The crowd gasped. Yarok wheeled, eyes flashing gold. His wolf surged close to the surface, anger making him reckless. He struck again, harder, faster, but Arya's blood surged with a strange heat. Every sound sharpened, every movement slowed. She saw his attack before it landed, ducking, countering, moving with an instinct that wasn't hers alone. Silver threads flickered in her vision. She drove her blade up, stopping just at his throat. One more inch and she would have slit him open. Silence fell. Yarok froze, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his temple. For the first time, his grin vanished. Arya's voice was steady when she said, "Do you yield?" His jaw clenched. For a moment, she thought he would defy her. But then, slowly, he dropped his blade. "I yield." The crowd erupted, some in shock, some in outrage, others in grudging admiration. Kale's golden eyes burned with pride, but also with something darker. He had seen it too, the unnatural instinct, the silver threads of power. She was no ordinary human. Later, when the warriors dispersed, Kale cornered her in the shadows of the armory. His hand slammed against the wall beside her, his body crowding hers. What was that? His voice was low, dangerous. Arya swallowed. "I fought. Don't play games with me." His eyes glowed, his wolf prowling beneath his skin. "You moved like one of us. Faster than one of us. What are you hiding?" She met his gaze, pulse racing. "I don't know. I swear, Kale, I don't know what's happening to me." He searched her face, as though trying to peel away every lie, every shield. At last, he leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. "Whatever it is, it belongs to me now. You belong to me." His words sent a shiver down her spine, part terror, part thrill. Far from the training grounds, Elder Varrock watched from the shadows of the trees. His eyes narrowed as he saw the crowd's reaction, the reluctant respect in some of the warriors' faces. The human was gaining ground. Too much ground. He turned, disappearing into the forest. If Kale would not break her, then others would. That same night, in the rival Alpha's den, plans were laid. "The Dark Fang pack is fractured," the rival Alpha said, circling his warriors like a predator. Half would die for Kale. Half would slit his throat if given the chance. And now this, his human Luna. Laughter rippled among his wolves. "Test their borders," the Alpha commanded. "Send rogues to sniff out weakness. If the human is his bond, then she is his leash. Tug hard enough, and the wolf will choke." When Arya lay in Kale's bed that night, her muscles aching, she couldn't sleep. The silver glow under her skin pulsed faintly, a secret she barely understood. Kale slept beside her, one arm draped over her waist, his presence heavy and protective. But her thoughts churned with fire and dread. She was no longer just fighting to be accepted. She was fighting to uncover what she really was. And if the truth destroyed Kale's faith in her, the bond might not survive. Chapter 7: Blood on the Snow. The storm hit at dawn. Not thunder or rain, but wolves. Dark shapes slinking through the mist, eyes burning like coals. The rogues moved as one, silent at first, then bursting into snarls that split the stillness. The Darkfang pack was ready. Alarms rang out, warriors shifting mid-stride, their bodies cracking, reshaping into beasts of fur and fang. The air filled with the stench of musk, the metallic tang of teeth sinking into flesh. Arya was shoved awake by the sound of chaos. She stumbled from Kale's bed, barefoot, heart hammering. Outside the lodge, growls and screams tangled in the air. Kale was already at the door, half-shifted. His body swelling with power, claws gleaming. He turned, golden eyes blazing. "Stay inside." Her throat tightened. "Kale! Stay inside." His wolf growled the words like an oath. Then he was gone, a blur of muscle and fury tearing into the morning. Arya's legs trembled. She wanted to obey, to cower in safety. But the silver threads beneath her skin pulsed hot, insistent, like a drumbeat calling her forward. She grabbed the training blade Kale had left against the wall. Its weight steadied her trembling hands. Then, against every command, she stepped outside. The village was chaos. Wolves lunged at wolves, bodies slamming into the dirt, blood spraying. The snow at the edges of the clearing was already stained crimson. Arya ducked as a rogue leapt past her, crashing into a warrior who snarled and tore into its throat. She staggered, breath ragged, searching for Kale among the frenzy. Then she saw him, Kale, massive in wolf form, black fur streaked with silver scars, golden eyes blazing. He tore through rogues like a storm given flesh, every strike lethal. But for every enemy he felled, more poured in. And they weren't charging blindly, they were circling, hunting. Arya felt it. Their eyes tracked her like prey. She raised her blade, heart slamming against her ribs. One rogue broke from the pack, rushing her with a snarl. She swung wildly, the blade catching its shoulder. It yelped, but momentum carried it forward, slamming her into the dirt. Hot breath washed over her face, rancid with blood. Its teeth snapped inches from her throat. Something in her chest ignited. Arya screamed, not in fear but in fury. The silver threads flared under her skin, and her hands shoved against the rogue's chest. Light erupted. The wolf was thrown back as if struck by lightning, its body crashing into the snow, smoking where her hands had touched it. Arya gasped, staring at her palms. They glowed faintly, silver fading to skin. The rogue snarled, limped to its feet. Then an enormous shadow slammed into it. "Oh!" His jaws clamped down, snapping its neck in a single brutal twist. He turned, muzzle dripping blood, and froze when he saw her. "Arya!" His voice was ragged even in wolf form. His mind bleeding through the bond. "What did you do?" She couldn't answer. Another rogue lunged at her back, and instinct screamed before thought. She whirled, thrusting the blade upward, straight into its chest. Hot blood spilled over her hands. The wolf collapsed, dead at her feet. Her stomach twisted, bile rising, but she didn't falter. More rogues surged. Kale roared, tearing into them, his fury unmatched. But even in his rage, he noticed it. Every rogue that fell was one that had been aimed at Arya. They weren't trying to break the pack. They were trying to take her. Minutes felt like hours. The last rogue finally collapsed under the weight of warrior's claws, its throat torn. The clearing reeked of iron and wet fur, the ground painted with blood. Arya stood trembling, her blade slick, her hands shaking violently. Her breath came in ragged sobs she couldn't control. Kale shifted back, his body streaked with blood, his chest heaving. He strode to her, gripping her shoulders hard. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, though tears spilled down her cheeks. He searched her, hands frantic, checking for wounds. When he found none, he pulled her against him, crushing her into his chest. "I told you to stay inside," he snarled, voice raw with fear and fury. Her fists clenched in his tunic. "They were after me." His body went still. Slowly he drew back, golden eyes narrowing. "What did you say?" "I felt it. Every one of them. They weren't fighting the pack. They were hunting me. The words settled like ash between them. Kale's wolf growled low, vibrating through the bond. Then this wasn't an attack. It was a message. Later, when the dead were burned and the wounded tended, Kale stood with his betas in the blood-soaked clearing. Arya sat near the fire, a blanket around her shoulders, staring at her hands. Too many for a rogue band, one beta muttered. They fought with discipline, another agreed. Someone sent them. Kale's jaw flexed. His eyes flicked to Arya, then back to his men. The target was clear. The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, one beta asked, "What do we do?" Kale's voice was steel. "We prepare. They want her. Let them come. They'll choke on her name." But inside, his thoughts churned with darker truths. Why would another pack want Arya? How did they know about her? And what in the goddess's name had he seen when her hands had flared with light? Arya was no ordinary human. And that truth might unravel everything. That night, when she finally slept, Kale stood by the fire, staring into the flames. His wolf paced inside him, restless, snarling. One thing was certain. If the enemy came for Arya again, Kale would drown the world in blood before he let them take her. Chapter 8, The Rogue's Warning. The pack house was too quiet. It wasn't peace, it was suspicion. Warriors lingered in the halls longer than usual, their eyes sliding to Arya as though she carried infection. Conversations hushed when she passed. She could feel the weight of their judgment, sharper than any blade. She wasn't supposed to have survived the attack. And she wasn't supposed to have glowed. Arya pulled her blanket tighter around her shoulders as she sat in the lodge's main hall. The fire cracked, sparks snapping into the air, but its warmth did nothing to settle the chill spreading through her chest. Her hands, her traitorous hands. She lifted them into the firelight, turning them over. They looked normal now, pale, soft, marred only by faint scratches. But she could still feel the echo of the heat, the rush of power that had burst through her in the fight. "You're awake." The voice was Kale's. Low, rough. Arya looked up. He stood in the doorway, still shirtless, his body streaked with half-washed blood, his hair damp from scrubbing. His golden eyes locked on her hands before flicking to her face. She dropped them to her lap, shame burning her cheeks. "You should be resting," she whispered. "So should you," he said. Then he crossed the room in long strides and sat opposite her. His gaze didn't waver. "What happened out there?" Her heart stuttered. Don't lie." His voice cut sharp, command laced in every syllable. The kind of tone that bent warriors to their knees. Arya swallowed hard. "I don't know. I was scared. Something happened." "You burned a wolf alive with your bare hands," Kale snapped, leaning closer. "That doesn't just happen." Her lips trembled. She shook her head, trying to find the words. "I don't understand it either. I'm human. No human has ever done what you did." Silence coiled between them, heavy and suffocating. Arya hugged her knees to her chest, eyes stinging. "Are you afraid of me now too?" Kale's jaw tightened. His hand reached out, cupping her cheek roughly, forcing her to look at him. His touch was searing, his eyes molten fire. "Afraid? No." His thumb brushed her skin. "But I'll be damned if I let you lie to me again." Her breath hitched. She wanted to tell him everything. But what was there to tell? She didn't know why she had powers, or why rogues wanted her, or why her blood seemed to hum beneath her skin. She was as lost as he was. "I'm not lying," she whispered. Kale's nostrils flared. He searched her face, as though the truth were hidden in her tears. Then, with a growl, he pulled away and stood, pacing like a caged beast. "Fine," he said. "If you don't know, then we'll find someone who does." Her stomach sank. "What do you mean?" "The council," he answered darkly. Arya shot to her feet. "No. You can't. They're already suspicious," Kale cut in. "The rogues were after you, Arya. Not me. Not my warriors. If I don't present answers, they'll demand your head." The words slammed into her chest like ice water. She staggered back, shaking her head violently. So you'll just hand me over? Kale stopped pacing. He turned, his face hard, unreadable. I'll protect you. But protection requires truth. You don't even know what you are, and that makes you dangerous. To yourself, to me, to everyone. Tears spilled before she could stop them. I didn't ask for this. I know, Kale said softly. His voice cracked at the edges, betraying the storm inside him. He stepped toward her again, hand half extended, then dropped it before he touched her. But fate doesn't ask permission. The council summoned him before the blood was dry. Arya wasn't allowed in the chamber. She sat outside, twisting her hands, listening to the muffled growls and arguments inside. Every minute was a knife in her chest. When Kale emerged, his face was carved from stone. His eyes found hers instantly. They want proof, he said simply. Her throat tightened. Proof of what? That you can be trusted. That you're not a curse waiting to happen. Her knees buckled. She gripped the wall to keep herself upright. And if I can't prove it? Kale's silence was answer enough. That night, while the pack slept uneasily, Arya slipped out of the lodge. The moon hung high, silver and pitiless. She wandered toward the edge of the forest, needing air, needing space to breathe. That was when she heard it, a rustle, low and deliberate. Her breath caught. Who's there? A shape emerged from the trees. A wolf, smaller than the others, its fur matted, its body scarred. One of the rogues, alive. She stumbled back, heart racing, but it didn't lunge. Its eyes, unnatural green, sharp with intelligence, locked on her. And then it shifted. A man stood before her, ragged, bloodied, but smirking. Little human, he rasped. Do you even know why they're hunting you? Her mouth went dry. Stay away. He raised a hand. I mean you no harm. If I wanted you dead, I'd have torn out your throat already. She froze, clutching her chest. The rogue grinned, teeth flashing in the moonlight. You shine, girl. Not because of him. He jerked his chin toward the pack house. But because of what you carry in your blood. Arya's voice cracked. What are you talking about? His eyes gleamed. Moonborn. That's what you are. The last of a line cursed by the goddess herself. Her pulse roared in her ears. That's not true. Isn't it? He tilted his head, studying her. Think about the power in your veins. Think about how the wolves sniff you like prey and fear you like plague. You don't belong to them, little human. You never will. Her stomach nodded. Why are you telling me this? Because truth burns brighter than lies. And when they find out what you are, not even your precious alpha will save you. Before she could move, he melted back into the forest, leaving only silence and the echo of his words. Arya stood frozen, breath shallow, her hands trembling. Moonborn. The word clung to her like a curse. And deep in her bones, something whispered that it was true. Chapter 9. The Council's Ultimatum. The pack house door slammed hard enough to rattle the beams. Kale stood in the doorway, shoulders squared, eyes blazing gold. Where were you? Arya froze halfway across the room, still breathless from her encounter in the forest. Her palms were damp, her heart galloping. She had rehearsed a dozen lies in the walk back. None survived under the weight of his gaze. I just needed air, she whispered. Kale's growl was low, feral. You left this house in the middle of the night with rogues still prowling. Do you have a death wish? Her chest tightened. I wasn't gone long. That isn't the point. He crossed the space in 2 strides, his hand clamping around her wrist, not hard enough to hurt but firm enough to make her feel caged. Every wolf in this territory has orders to guard you with their lives, and you slip away like a thief? Do you know what they'll say if they find out? Arya's throat worked. That I don't belong here. His grip faltered. Just slightly. Enough for her to tug free. The silence stretched between them, sharp as glass. She could lie, bury the rogue's words in the pit of her stomach. But the memory of those glowing green eyes and the venom in his voice gnawed at her. She lifted her chin. I saw one of them. Cale stiffened. A rogue. Yes. He didn't attack me. He spoke to me. The fury in Cale's expression flickered into something else. Alarm. Fear. What did he say? Arya twisted her fingers together, nails digging crescents into her palms. He said I wasn't human. He said I'm moonborn. The word fell like a stone in the room. Cale's eyes widened, then narrowed into slits. He took a step back, as though distance might make the word less dangerous. Moonborn, he repeated, voice flat. Arya nodded, her chest aching. Do you know what it means? Cale dragged both hands through his hair, pacing. His jaw clenched hard enough to crack bone. It's a curse. An old one. The moonborn line was destroyed centuries ago. Her stomach lurched. Destroyed. He stopped pacing. His golden eyes pinned her. Because they were too dangerous to live. Fire in their veins, chaos in their blood. They defied the goddess herself. Entire packs fell because of them. Arya's knees threatened to give way. So what does that make me? Cale's silence was a blade. The council summoned them the next day. The chamber was carved from black stone, its ceiling high and oppressive. Elders sat in a semicircle, their robes heavy, their eyes colder than winter. Arya stood just behind Cale, every hair on her neck prickling. Alpha Cale, Elder Dorian began, voice like gravel. Your Luna has drawn attention. The rogues hunt her. Pack whispers. We demand clarity. Cale's shoulders rolled back, broad and unyielding. She is mine. That is all the clarity you require. A murmur of disapproval rippled across the chamber. Elder Marwyn leaned forward, her pale eyes sharp. You would risk your pack for a human girl with unexplained powers? Or is it true what the whispers say, that she is moonborn? Arya's blood went cold. Cale didn't flinch. Whispers are not truth. But she glowed. Another elder hissed. She burned a wolf alive. Do you deny it? Cale's silence was damning. Arya's chest constricted. She opened her mouth, desperate to defend herself, but Cale's hand shot behind him, pressing lightly against her hip. A silent command. Stay silent. Elder Dorian's eyes narrowed. Then you leave us no choice. Reject her, Cale. Cast her out before she destroys you all. The words slammed through Arya like a spear. Her vision blurred. She clutched Cale's sleeve, nails biting fabric, breath shallow. Cale stood rooted, a mountain of defiance. His voice came out low, lethal. No. The council erupted, voices overlapping in fury. Arya staggered under the weight of their rage, but Cale didn't waver. His hand slid back, catching hers, gripping it hard enough to anchor her. You forget yourselves, Cale thundered, and the chamber stilled. I am your alpha. My mate is mine to choose. I will not reject her. The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. Elder Marwyn's lips curled into something between a sneer and a smile. Then you seal your fate. When she destroys you, remember this day. The walk back to the pack house was suffocating. Arya kept her eyes on the ground, her heart pounding against her ribs. Finally, when the silence grew unbearable, she whispered, You should have let me go. Cale's head snapped toward her. Don't ever say that again. You defied the council, she said, her voice breaking. For me. When even you don't know what I am. He stopped dead in the path, his grip on her arm firm, turning her to face him. His eyes blazed, but beneath the fury was something raw, something wounded. I don't care what you are, Cale said. His voice a growl of conviction. Human. Moonborn. Goddess-damned demon. You are mine. And I will burn this world before I let them take you from me. Arya's lips parted, but no words came. Her chest ached, torn between fear and a reckless, dangerous hope. She searched his face, desperate for reassurance. But in the flicker of his golden eyes, she saw it, doubt. He would fight the world for her. But even Kale wasn't sure she wouldn't be the one to destroy him. Chapter 10, The Forbidden Night. The pack house walls felt like a prison. Arya sat curled on the edge of the massive bed, staring at the dark wood beams above. The fire in the hearth had burned down to embers, and the silence pressed heavy against her chest. Every moment since the council had been a blur of dread and Kale's stubborn defiance. He had risked everything, his throne, his warriors, his people, for her. And the more she thought about it, the more guilt coiled inside her like a serpent. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm cursed. The door creaked open. Kale entered, his shoulders tight. His jaw set in that dangerous line that meant he was still carrying the fight in his blood. His eyes locked on her immediately, softening just slightly. "You should be asleep," he said, voice low. "So should you." Her words were little more than a whisper. He closed the door with a quiet click, then crossed the room with slow, deliberate strides. Arya's heart raced with every step he took. Kale stopped at the edge of the bed. For a long moment, he just looked at her. No words, no movement, just those golden eyes burning into her soul. Finally he said, "Do you regret it?" She frowned. "Regret what?" "Me." His voice cracked around the edges, rough as gravel. "If I had rejected you today, the council would have been satisfied. My pack would have been safe. You wouldn't have this target painted on your back." Arya's breath caught. She rose to her knees, facing him fully. "If you had rejected me, I'd be dead inside. And you know it." His jaw clenched, but the rawness in his eyes betrayed him. Arya reached up, fingers trembling as they brushed the edge of his jaw. He inhaled sharply, as if her touch were fire. "Kale," she whispered, "I don't regret you. Not for a second." Something inside him snapped. In the next breath, his mouth was on hers, fierce and claiming. His hands gripped her waist, pulling her against him. His body radiating heat. She gasped against his lips, then melted into the kiss, clutching at his shoulders like a lifeline. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, as though both of them had been starving and only now dared to feed. Kale broke away just long enough to growl, "Say it again." Her lips brushed his, breathless. "I don't regret you." His mouth crashed back onto hers, hungrier, deeper. His hands roamed, up her spine into her hair, pressing her closer as though he could fuse her into his very skin. Arya's world narrowed to him. The taste of his lips, the thunder of his heartbeat, the way his wolf prowled beneath the surface, straining to claim. She felt the bond flare between them, a pull so strong it nearly knocked her breath away. It wasn't just attraction. It was fate, searing them together in fire and moonlight. Kale tore his lips from hers, pressing his forehead to hers, panting hard. "You don't know what you're asking for." Her hands gripped his face, forcing him to look at her. "Then show me." His control shattered. Kale pushed her back against the bed. His weight braced above hers. His golden eyes molten with need. For a heartbeat, his wolf flickered through, fangs sharp, gaze wild. Arya's pulse quickened, but she didn't fear him. She lifted her chin, baring her throat in silent trust. That was all it took. With a growl that shook the room, Kale's lips descended on her throat, teeth grazing, marking, claiming. Her cry filled the air, half pleasure, half surrender. The bond snapped tight, electric, irreversible. She belonged to him. And he to her. Hours later, the fire had died to ash. Moonlight spilled through the window, silvering their tangled bodies. Arya lay curled against Kale's chest, listening to the steady drum of his heart. For the first time since being dragged into his world, she felt safe. But beneath the safety was a flicker of fear. The rogue's words echoed in her skull. Moonborn. Cursed. Dangerous. She pressed closer to Kale, burying her face in his skin. If she was cursed, then so was he now. Kale stirred, his hand sliding lazily through her hair. "You're quiet." "Just thinking," she murmured. "About what?" About how nothing will ever be the same. His chest rumbled with a low, almost bitter laugh. It already isn't. She tilted her head up, meeting his eyes. Do you regret it? His hand tightened in her hair, firm but tender. Never. His lips brushed her temple. You're mine, Arya. And nothing, council pack goddess, will take you from me. Her throat tightened. She wanted to believe him. She needed to. But she didn't see the shadow at the door. Someone watched through the crack, unseen, eyes glinting with cold calculation. A witness to their forbidden night. And by dawn the whole pack would know. Chapter 11, The Enemy Luna. By dawn whispers spread like wildfire. Arya knew the moment she stepped into the hall. Warriors averted their eyes, but their ears burned with gossip. Wolves who once bowed to her now stared openly, as though they could see through her skin and into the night she had shared with Kale. Her cheeks flamed and shame gnawed at her ribs. But beneath the shame was anger. Their bond wasn't a crime, it was fate. Why did it feel like betrayal in their eyes? Kale walked beside her, every inch the alpha. His jaw was tight, his stride steady, but she could feel the tension radiating from him. He heard every whisper, every muttered curse. The council didn't wait long. By midday, Kale was summoned to the chamber. Arya followed, though her stomach churned. The elders' faces were darker than storm clouds. Elder Dorian wasted no time. You've done it, Kale. You've doomed us all. Kale's golden eyes narrowed. Careful. Elder Marwan's voice was sharp, cutting through the air. You dared to seal a bond with her. Human. Worse. One tainted by moonborn blood. Do you not understand what you've done? The goddess will not forgive this blasphemy. Arya flinched, but Kale stood taller, shoulders squared like iron. I do not answer to you. She is mine. A ripple of outrage coursed through the chamber. Elder Marwan slammed her hand on the table. Then you are unfit to rule. You've let lust and madness cloud your judgment. You endanger every wolf under your command. Kale leaned forward, his growl low and lethal. Try to take her from me, and see how unfit I truly am. The elders fell silent, but the air vibrated with their fury. And then the doors creaked open. A stranger entered, tall, broad-shouldered, his hair black as midnight. His eyes silver like the moon. His presence filled the chamber, wolves instinctively bowing their heads though he wasn't their alpha. Arya's breath caught. Power radiated off him in waves. Alpha Kale, the man said smoothly. His voice like velvet wrapped around steel. I heard of your predicament. I came to offer a solution. Kale's lips curled. And who invited you into my territory, Aldrich? So this was him, the alpha of the eastern clans. Ruthless, ambitious, feared. Aldrich's silver gaze swept the room, finally landing on Arya. His lips curved, slow and deliberate. The girl. Arya stiffened under his stare. Kale's growl shook the walls. Careful where your eyes linger. But Aldrich only smiled wider. I mean no insult. Quite the opposite. She has power, doesn't she? Can feel it from here. Tame. Dangerous. He turned back to the council. If she remains with Kale, she will destroy him. But with me. His grin widened, predatory. With me, she would be a queen worthy of legend. Arya's stomach turned to ice. You dare, Kale snarled, stepping forward. His wolf flashing beneath his skin. Peace, Aldrich said smoothly, though his eyes glittered with challenge. I came not for war, but for alliance. Give her to me, Kale. Bind our packs. Together we could rule the entire realm. Your defiance of the council will be forgotten. The elders shifted uneasily. The offer was tempting, too tempting. Arya felt her throat tighten, her lungs burning as though the air itself rejected her. She wanted to scream, to deny him, to cling to Kale. But her voice failed her. Kale's hands curled into fists. His golden eyes burned like fire. You think you can take what is mine? Aldrich smirked, tilting his head. I think you've already lost control of it. His gaze flicked to Arya again, sharp and knowing. The bond makes you weak. Everyone sees it. The words sliced through Cale, though he didn't flinch. Arya saw the way his jaw clenched, the way his chest heaved with barely leashed rage. For a moment the chamber was silent, the tension thick enough to choke. Then Cale spoke, his voice low, dangerous. Leave my territory before I rip your throat out. Aldrich's smirk never faltered. Very well. But remember, Cale, when your council turns against you, and your pack abandons you, my doors will be open. To her. Arya's heart stopped. Cale moved faster than thought, his wolf flashing in his eyes, but Aldrich was gone before Cale could touch him. The doors slammed shut with finality. Silence hung in the chamber, suffocating. The elders looked at Cale with something worse than anger, disappointment, condemnation. You've sealed your doom, Elder Marwyn whispered. Cale didn't look at them. He only looked at Arya, his eyes burning with a promise she wasn't sure he could keep. But Aldrich's silver eyes haunted her, and his words echoed in her skull. With me she would be a queen. And for the first time, a terrifying thought slithered through her chest. What if Cale couldn't protect her after all? Chapter 12 Blood in the Shadows. The pack house no longer felt alive. Once, Arya remembered the warmth of wolves laughing in the courtyard, the sound of sparring in the training fields, the steady rhythm of loyalty. Now, silence lingered in every hall, broken only by whispers that died when she walked past. She wasn't Cale's mate in their eyes. She was his curse. The elders' anger had spread through the ranks. Some still bowed when she entered, but the movement was stiff, resentful. Others didn't bother. Warriors she had once healed with herbs turned their faces away as though ashamed to meet her gaze. Cale stood taller than ever, shielding her like a wall of iron, but even she could feel the shift beneath the surface. His pack was fracturing. That evening, she found herself alone in the kitchen. She had insisted Cale take a walk with his second-in-command, to ease his restless wolf. He hadn't wanted to leave her, but she needed a moment to breathe. The quiet was soothing at first. She poured herself a cup of water, trying not to think of Aldrich's silver eyes, of the way the elders had looked at Cale. She didn't hear the footsteps until it was too late. A sharp scent hit her nose. Wolf, but not Cale. Thought you'd be stronger, a voice sneered behind her. Arya spun, the cup slipping from her hand and shattering on the stone floor. It was Yora, one of Cale's warriors. She'd seen him smile at her before, even defend her when others whispered. But his smile now was twisted, cruel. You're destroying us, he hissed, eyes glowing faint amber in the dim light. Cale's blind to it, but we're not. Every wolf knows it. If you stay, we'll burn. Her throat tightened. Yora, please. He pulled a blade from his belt, the silver catching the firelight. Arya's heart slammed against her ribs. She backed away, but the counter trapped her. Don't fight, Yora muttered, almost regretful. It'll be quick. Better one death than the whole pack. Her pulse roared in her ears. She couldn't scream, Cale was too far. The knife flashed upward. Instinct took over. A heat surged inside her, violent and unstoppable. Her vision blurred silver. The air around her cracked, and a pulse of energy exploded from her chest. Yora was thrown across the room, crashing into the wall with a sickening thud. The blade clattered from his hand. Arya gasped, staring at her trembling hands. Sparks still danced along her skin, glowing faintly like moonlight. The door burst open. Cale stormed in, his wolf already breaking through, golden eyes blazing. His gaze darted between Arya, the fallen warrior, and the silver glow still flickering around her. What happened? He snarled. Arya's voice shook. He tried to kill me. Cale's growl shook the room. In a blink, he was on Yora, lifting him by the throat. You dare! Yora's eyes bulged, but he managed to croak. She's a weapon. Curse. Can't you see it? Kale slammed him into the wall, stone cracking. You'll pay for this with your life. No. Arya's voice cut through the rage. Kale froze, turning to her in disbelief. She swallowed hard. If you kill him, you'll prove them right. They'll say you spill blood for me. That you've lost all reason. His chest heaved, his wolf snarling to finish it, but her words tethered him. Slowly, with visible effort, Kale released Yora, letting him collapse in a heap. Get him out of my sight, Kale growled to his second-in-command, who had rushed in behind him. And lock him in the cells. The warriors dragged Yora away, though his glare lingered on Arya like poison. When the room was empty, Kale turned to her. His eyes softened when he saw her shaking. He reached for her, pulling her against him, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I should have never left you alone. His voice cracked. Never. Her hands clutched his tunic, her body trembling. Kale. Something happened. I don't know how. He was going to kill me and then. She pulled back, showing him her hands. They still shimmered faintly, silver veins glowing beneath her skin. Kale stared, stunned. His lips parted, but no words came. It was like fire, she whispered. But not fire. Moonlight. It came out of me. Kale's eyes darkened, not with fear, but with realization. The prophecy. Arya's stomach twisted. What prophecy? He hesitated, but only for a breath. The Moonborn, a child of shadow and light, feared because their power could destroy or save us all. His voice dropped. They think it's you. Her chest clenched. And what do you think? He cupped her face, his golden eyes burning into hers. I think you're mine. Whatever power you carry, it doesn't change that. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to sink into his arms and let the world burn. But somewhere deep inside, a cold truth whispered. The world wasn't afraid of her for nothing. And now, she wasn't sure if Kale could protect her, or if she needed to protect him. Chapter 13, The Moonborn Curse. The council chamber was colder than usual, though no wind touched its stone walls. Arya stood beside Kale, her hands still faintly tingling with the memory of what had happened the night before. The warriors had dragged Yora into the cells, but his words, she's a weapon, a curse, still echoed in her skull. The chamber was full. Elders sat in their carved thrones, their robes heavy with authority. Warriors lined the walls, their golden eyes flickering with unease. And in the center, Kale stood like a storm barely contained. You should have executed him, Elder Marius said, his deep voice echoing off the stone. His gaze flicked briefly to Arya. Attempting to kill a Luna, even one not yet bound, is treason. He will face justice, Kale growled. But not death. Not yet. Not yet. Elder Nyra leaned forward, her eyes sharp as blades. Or never. Perhaps because you know he spoke truth. Kale stiffened. What truth? Nyra's gaze slid to Arya, cold and cutting. That she is moonborn. The spark is upon her. We all felt it when the surge rattled the walls. Don't insult us with denial. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some wolves shifted uneasily. Others snarled softly, their fear bleeding into anger. Kale's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. Careful, Nyra. But Marius raised a hand, silencing him. The lore is older than any of us. A child of shadow and light, cursed with the moon's fire. No one who bears that power can walk safely among us. They bring ruin. Always. Arya's stomach turned. She wanted to speak, to defend herself, but the weight of so many eyes crushed the words in her throat. Another elder hissed. We should end it before it begins. The council demands her execution. The chamber erupted. Warriors barked in protest, some in agreement, some in outrage. Kale's own second-in-command stepped forward, face taut. She saved herself. She didn't strike unprovoked. That is not a crime. Power like that, Nyra snapped, is a crime. Kale moved before anyone else could speak. His wolf surged close to the surface, eyes burning molten gold. His voice thundered. No one will touch her. The chamber went silent. The authority in his tone cracked like lightning. Even the elders stilled. Kale turned slowly, glaring at each of them in turn. You sit here and speak of curses, of old tales, while rogues gather at our borders and Aldrich circles like a vulture. And your answer is to kill her. The woman who risked everything to save wolves who spat at her. Naira sneered. Love blinds even the strongest alpha. Love strengthens him, Kale snapped. And mark me well, if you raise one hand against her, you raise it against me. A ripple of shock swept through the room. Threatening the council was near treason in itself. Marius' voice was low, heavy with warning. Be careful, Kale. You risk not only your throne but your pack. Kale's jaw clenched. I would risk both 1,000 times before I risk her. The silence that followed was suffocating. Arya's heart pounded so loudly she was sure they could all hear it. Finally Marius leaned back, his expression unreadable. So be it. But know this, your choice divides us. The council cannot stand behind a Luna who might bring destruction. If you defy us, you stand alone. Kale's hand found hers, squeezing tight. Then I stand alone. The chamber broke into chaos. Shouts, snarls, the sound of wolves half-shifting in fury. Guards moved to restore order, but the air itself seemed ready to split. Through it all, Arya stood frozen, Kale's hand the only thing keeping her upright. When they finally left the chamber, the halls echoed with mutters of rebellion. Wolves who once bowed now glared openly. Kale didn't release her hand until they were back in the safety of his chambers. His chest rose and fell like he had just fought a war. They'll come for me now, he said finally, voice raw. For us. Arya's throat tightened. Kale, maybe they're right. Maybe I am a danger to you. He turned so fast it startled her. His hands gripping her shoulders. Don't ever say that. You are not my curse, Arya. You are my mate. She wanted to believe him, wanted to sink into the strength of his words. But the image of the council's faces, twisted with fear and hatred, refused to leave her mind. If the pack rose against Kale because of her, what then? And worse, what if the power inside her was dangerous? What if it burned him too? But Kale didn't waver. His lips brushed her forehead, soft despite the storm in him. They'll have to kill me before they touch you, he whispered. And Arya realized, with a chill that sank to her bones. They just might try. Chapter 14. Fractured loyalties. The pack house no longer felt safe. Where once the corridors echoed with unity, now they crackled with distrust. Arya could feel it in the way conversations cut short when she entered, in the wary glances that lingered too long, in the sudden silences heavy with unspoken words. Kale pretended not to notice, but his jaw clenched more often, his steps heavier, his gaze sharp as blades when he looked upon his wolves. Arya noticed everything. She heard the fights that broke out in the training fields, wolves shouting, claws raking stone, arguments about loyalty, about Kale, about her. She'll doom us all, one voice roared one afternoon, audible even from the high balcony. She saved Yora from killing her. Another argued back. She should have let him finish it. The clash that followed was brutal, and though Kale ordered the warriors separated, the blood on the dirt spoke louder than any command. The pack was tearing itself apart. One evening, Arya ventured into the courtyard alone. She needed air, needed space to think. Kale had been locked in tense discussion with his second, trying to keep the warriors from open rebellion. For once, she wanted to stand without him shielding her, if only to prove she wasn't weak. She didn't get far. A group of wolves blocked her path. 3 of them, their postures tense, eyes glowing faint in the moonlight. She recognized them. Warriors loyal to Elder Naira. Luna, one spat, his voice dripping with mockery. Or should we call you something else? Moonborn witch, maybe. Her chest tightened, but she forced her chin high. I'm Kale's mate. Kale's mate. The tallest wolf stepped closer, his lip curling. Kale's downfall. You poison him. You divide us. And while you stand at his side, we bleed. I've done nothing but survive, the first snarled. That's the problem. You should have died when fate demanded it. The words struck harder than claws. Arya's breath caught, but she didn't back away. I won't apologize for living. The wolf's eyes narrowed. For a heartbeat, she thought he might strike her. Then another voice cut through the tension. Step away. It was Kale's second in command. Eyes like steel, posture rigid with authority. The warriors stiffened, but their hatred lingered as they withdrew, spitting curses under their breath. Arya stood frozen, her heart pounding. You can't walk alone anymore, the second said flatly. Not with things as they are. I can't let them see me cower, Arya whispered. He studied her, and for the first time his gaze softened. Then don't cower. But don't be reckless either. Kale can't afford to lose you. When she returned to Kale's chambers that night, she said nothing. But sleep didn't come easily. The next day proved worse. Two factions of warriors clashed openly in the yard. Wolves shifted, teeth bared, blood spilling on sacred ground. Kale threw himself between them, his alpha voice shattering the chaos, but even his command felt frayed, stretched thin. Arya stood on the balcony, helpless, until something inside her stirred again. That same silver pulse from before, rising, demanding release. The air shimmered around her, faint moonlight dancing at her fingertips. The fighting wolves froze, their heads snapping toward her. Some gasped, others snarled. She'll kill us all, one muttered, his voice trembling with fear. No, another whispered, eyes wide with awe. She's the moon's chosen. The split was instant, undeniable. Kel saw it too. His golden eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw not just pride or love in his gaze, but fear. Fear of what her power might unleash, not upon him, but upon them all. That night she couldn't keep silent. Kale, she whispered as they lay in the quiet, the moon spilling silver across his bare shoulders. What if they're right? What if I tear everything apart? His hand found hers beneath the sheets, firm, steady. Then let it tear, and I'll build it again with you. Her chest ached. I don't want them to hate you because of me. They can hate me all they want. They'll still obey me. But Arya wasn't sure anymore. She had seen the way their eyes shifted when they looked at her, some with devotion, others with terror. Wolves divided were wolves weakened. And weakened wolves didn't survive long. The answer came sooner than she expected. On the third night after the council meeting, a howl split the dark, a cry of alarm. Wolves raced through the corridors, the air electric with panic. Arya rushed to the courtyard, Kale at her side. The sight waiting there froze her blood. One of the pack's children, barely 12 years old, lay bleeding on the stones, his small chest clawed open. His mother wailed beside him, warriors holding her back as healers rushed in vain. The boy's blood painted the ground like an omen, and scrawled in it, crude and deliberate, were words that made Arya's knees weaken. No moon-born Luna. Kale's roar shook the night, his wolf breaking free, his fury consuming the courtyard. But even as he vowed vengeance, Arya saw it clearly. This wasn't just rebellion. It was war. Chapter 15, The Luna's Vow. The boy's funeral pyre burned through the night. Flames licked the dark sky, sparks rising into the cold air like lost stars. The pack gathered in silence, their faces a mix of grief and rage, the smoke clinging to their fur and clothes. Arya stood beside Kale, her hand swallowed in his, but she had never felt more distant from those around her. Their eyes slid past her, full of quiet accusations, some outright hatred. She had not killed the boy, but his blood was a message written for her. No moon-born Luna. Kale's wolf prowled beneath his skin, restless, furious. His grip on her hand was tight enough to hurt, as though letting go might allow her to be taken. When the flames finally died, he turned on his second-in-command. Find them. Every last one. His voice was rough stone, jagged with fury. Drag them out. Make them beg for mercy they will not get. The warriors bowed, but Arya could see the unease in their movements. They were loyal, but even loyalty had limits when it was tested by fear. Later, in the quiet of his chambers, Cale paced like a caged beast. They think killing children will frighten me, he snarled. They think it will drive me to cast you aside. But all they've done is sign their death warrants. Arya sat on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly. Cale! He turned, eyes burning gold. The wolf so close his words came out like a growl. What? Her throat tightened, but she forced the words out. What if killing me would stop this? The silence that followed was suffocating. Cale's body went rigid, his wolf bristling. In 2 strides he was before her, hands gripping her face so hard it almost hurt. His voice was low, deadly. Don't you ever say that again. Tears burned her eyes. I can't stand watching them bleed for me. That boy was not your fault. His jaw clenched. The ones who killed him are to blame. Not you. Never you. She wanted to believe him. But the truth gnawed at her chest. She was the reason the words had been carved into blood. She was the spark. She was the line dividing the pack. That night, long after Cale finally lay beside her in restless sleep, Arya slipped from the bed. The courtyard was empty, lit only by the pale glow of the waning moon. She walked barefoot across the cold stone until she stood where the boy's blood had stained the ground. Though the healers had scrubbed it clean, she could still see the ghost of it in her mind. She closed her eyes. The first time the power had surged from her, it had been instinct, terror and survival. The second time in the yard, it had come unbidden, raw and uncontrolled. She had no idea what it was or how to master it. But if she didn't, more would die. She drew a slow breath. Please. If this is truly inside me, show me how to control it. Show me how to protect them. Show me how to protect him. The night air stirred. A shiver ran through her body, and then the glow came. Soft at first, a shimmer along her fingertips, then stronger, pulsing like a heartbeat. Moonlight threaded through her veins, lighting her from within. It was beautiful, terrifying. She raised her hands, and the air rippled outward, a circle of silver light spreading across the stones. For a moment she felt weightless, powerful, like the moon itself had descended into her body. Then the force snapped back. Her knees buckled and she fell, gasping, the glow sputtering out like a dying flame. Her chest ached as though she'd been hollowed out. Arya! She jerked her head up. Cale stood in the archway, his bare chest gleaming in the moonlight, his expression a storm of fear and awe. He crossed to her in seconds, lifting her as though she weighed nothing. What were you doing? Her voice was hoarse. Trying to control it. His jaw worked, torn between anger and concern. You could have hurt yourself. I already did, she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. I hurt that boy. Not with my hands, but because of what I am. And if I don't learn this, Cale, more will die. You'll lose your pack. You'll lose everything. His arms tightened around her, his wolf growling low in his chest. I'd lose it all gladly if it meant keeping you alive. She shook her head fiercely. No, I won't let you burn for me. If the moon gave me this power, then I'll use it. Not to destroy but to protect. I swear it. Her vow rang in the night, quiet but unbreakable. Cale held her tighter, his lips pressed against her hair, but his silence told her everything. He wanted to believe her. He was terrified to. Chapter 16, Secrets in the Moonlight. The castle had grown restless. Every shadow seemed longer now, every whisper heavier. The funeral pyre's smoke had barely faded, yet already the rebellion moved again, leaving scraps of blood-scrawled warnings on the walls and the bodies of scouts left where they could be found. Cale doubled the patrols. He prowled the halls sleepless, his fury kept barely in check. The pack needed a strong alpha, But Arya could see how his rage hollowed him, made his shoulders bow under the invisible weight. And it was all because of her. Arya had made her vow. She would not let him bleed alone for her. If that meant embracing the moon's gift, even if it consumed her, so be it. But she could not go to Kale. Not yet. His protectiveness was armor and chains both. He would never allow her to risk herself, so she sought help elsewhere. That help came in the most unlikely of forms. Mira. The seeress had kept her distance since revealing Arya's nature, always watching with unreadable eyes. But now, when Arya approached her chambers in the quiet hours before dawn, Mira opened the door as though she had been waiting. "You've decided," Mira said simply. Arya hesitated in the doorway. "Decided to stop running from what you are." Mira's eyes glowed faintly, not gold like a wolf's but pale, reflecting the moonlight itself. The moon does not waste her gifts. But she does not give them freely either. They demand blood, sacrifice, and courage. Do you have these? Arya's throat was dry. If it means protecting Kale, yes. Mira's lips curved faintly. Then come. The seeress led her through a hidden stair that wound beneath the castle, down to a cavern where the walls shimmered with veins of silver stone. Water dripped from the ceiling, pooling in a basin that gleamed like liquid moonlight. "This is a moon well," Mira explained. "A place where the veil between worlds is thin. Here, the moon's power answers more quickly, but it can just as easily devour the unworthy." Arya's pulse raced. "You'll teach me." "I'll try." Mira studied her closely. "But understand this. Kale would kill me if he knew. And if you fail, the power could tear your soul apart. Still want to proceed?" Arya thought of Kale, of his weary eyes, of the boy's funeral pyre. She nodded. "Yes." Mira's smile was sharp, approving. "Good. Sit." Arya knelt before the moon well. The silver light danced across her skin, and she felt it stir, the same force that had flared uncontrolled in the courtyard. "Close your eyes," Mira instructed. "Breathe. Don't fight the power when it comes. Invite it. Shape it. The moon does not yield to fear." Arya obeyed. At first there was nothing but the sound of water, the faint hum of stone. Then the pull came, a slow, insistent tide rising through her chest, filling her veins with cold fire. She gasped, her body trembling, but Mira's voice anchored her. "Steady. Imagine the light as a thread. Take hold of it. Weave it." The glow spread through her, spilling from her hands in shimmering tendrils. She tried to shape it into a sphere, a shield, something solid. For a heartbeat it worked. The light gathered, coalescing in her palms. Then pain lanced through her. The sphere shattered, and she cried out, falling forward as the energy seared her skin. "Again," Mira said calmly. Arya panted, sweat on her brow. It burns." "Of course it does. Power always burns." Again. So she tried again. And again. Each time the light came easier, though it slipped through her grasp like water. Each time it left her weaker, shaking, her body aching from the strain. By the time Mira finally stopped her, Arya could barely sit upright. "You're not hopeless," Mira said, handing her a flask of bitter herbs. "But you're afraid. Fear breaks the weave. Until you accept the moon's hunger, you will never master it." "What hunger?" Arya whispered. Mira's eyes gleamed. "The hunger to take, to consume, to be more than flesh. Power is never gentle, Arya. It devours or it protects, sometimes both. You must decide which it will be." Arya's stomach knotted. Protecting Kale was all she wanted. But what if protecting him meant becoming something monstrous? She staggered back to Kale's chambers before dawn, hiding her exhaustion. He didn't notice. He was too consumed with reports of another ambush. This time, the traitors had struck a supply caravan only miles from the castle walls. "They grow bolder," Kale snarled, slamming his fist against the map table. "They want to corner me, force my hand. But I'll burn them out before I let them take one more life." Arya touched his arm gently. Maybe Maybe they're not just trying to corner you. Maybe they want you to falter, to become reckless. His golden eyes met hers, hard as iron. Let them try. But as he stormed from the room, she felt the cold coil of fear in her chest. Because Mira had been right. Power burned. And Kale was burning already. That night, when Arya returned to the moon well, her hands shook. She tried again to weave the light, her vow echoing in her mind. Protect him. No matter the cost. And this time the light held. A small sphere of silver glowed in her palms, trembling but real. Her triumph was cut short by a sound, a low growl echoing in the cavern. She whirled, clutching the sphere of light, and her breath caught. Kale stood in the shadows, his wolf's eyes blazing gold. Arya, he said softly, dangerously. What are you doing? The sphere flickered and died. Her secret was no longer a secret. Chapter 17, The Wolf's Fury. The cavern thrummed with silence after Kale's words, a silence heavier than any roar. Arya's chest tightened, her hands still tingling where the sphere of light had died. She had imagined this moment, Kale finding out, but not like this. Not with his eyes blazing, his jaw set like stone, his whole body vibrating with the kind of fury that made lesser wolves cower. Kale, she began, her voice unsteady. I can explain. Explain. His laugh was sharp, humorless. You nearly burned yourself to ash playing with forces you don't understand. And you think there's an explanation that will make me less furious? Mira shifted in the shadows, but Kale's gaze snapped to her like a blade unsheathed. You, he growled. You did this. You led her here. I only showed her what was already inside her, Mira said evenly, though her hands trembled faintly at her sides. Would you rather she remain ignorant until the power consumes her? Kale advanced a step, and Arya darted between them. Stop it. Both of you. Her voice cracked, but it was enough to freeze Kale's motion. His chest heaved, his eyes flicking back to her, softer but still aflame. Arya, he said, quieter now, almost pleading. Why? Why would you risk this? Don't you see what it's doing to you? You're pale, exhausted. Because I can't stand by while you fight for me. Her own voice rose, startling her. I see what this war is doing to you, Kale. It's killing you piece by piece. And I'm supposed to watch, powerless. Well, if I have a gift, no matter how dangerous, I will use it. His hands clenched into fists. You don't understand. That power doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the moon. Takes as much as it gives. You think it will let you stop at protecting me? No, Arya. It will devour you until nothing of the woman I love remains. The words struck her like a blow. The woman I love. He had said it without hesitation, without fear. Yet his love felt like another chain around her wrists. Her throat tightened. And what if you're wrong? What if I can master it? What if I can be more than the helpless human they mock? More than the weakness they want to exploit? You are not weak. Kale's voice thundered through the cavern. His hands grasped her shoulders, hard but trembling. Do you not see that? You walked into a world built to break you, and you have not bowed once. You are braver than most wolves I've led into battle. But this power, it will not honor your bravery. It will twist it. Tears pricked her eyes. So you'd rather I stay small, stay safe. Watch you bleed for me until there's nothing left of you. His silence was answer enough. For a long moment they stared at each other, breath ragged, the cavern echoing with the weight of words unsaid. Then Kale released her and stepped back, as though the touch itself burned him. You don't know what you're asking me to accept, he said, his voice rough. Every instinct in me screams to protect you. And here you are, choosing danger. Choosing the very thing I swore to shield you from. Arya swallowed hard. Then maybe this isn't about protecting me, Kale. Maybe it's about control. You want me safe because it makes you feel strong. But I'm not your burden. I'm your mate. And if you truly believe that, then you have to let me fight. His jaw worked, golden eyes darkening with conflict. For the first time since she had met him, Kale looked uncertain. Mira finally spoke, her voice low. Alpha, you cannot cage the moon's chosen. If you try, she will only burn brighter and burn herself out. Kale shot her a glare sharp enough to cut stone, but he did not argue. His fury had drained into something heavier, wearier. Finally he exhaled, long and shuddering. You want to train. Fine. But not in secret. Not with her alone. I will be there. Every moment. And if I see the power consuming you, Arya, moon help me, I will tear it from your veins if I must. Arya's breath caught. It was not permission, not truly. It was a battle line drawn in fragile compromise. But it was more than she had dared hope. She nodded slowly. Then we'll face it together. Kale's gaze lingered on her, aching and unyielding all at once. Then he turned on his heel, his cloak swirling behind him as he stalked out of the cavern. When his footsteps faded, Mira sighed. He loves you more fiercely than I expected. But love is not the same as trust. Arya pressed a trembling hand to her chest, where the memory of the light still pulsed. Then I'll make him trust me, even if it breaks me. Above them, the moon slid from behind the clouds, casting the cavern in cold silver glow. Arya stared into its light, her vow echoing in her heart. Protect him. Stand beside him. No matter the cost. And for the first time, she wondered if the cost might not be hers alone. Chapter 18 Fire in the Veins. Training with Kale was nothing like training with Mira. Where Myra's guidance was patient, subtle, Kale's was a storm. His commands cracked like whips, his golden eyes never leaving her. His presence heavy with both protectiveness and raw authority. Again, he ordered, his voice echoing through the cavern. Arya's arms trembled as she tried to weave the silver threads of light between her palms. The sphere flickered, unstable, humming with volatile energy. Sweat dripped down her spine, her jaw clenched tight. Don't fight it, Kale growled, circling her like a predator. You're straining against the tide instead of riding it. Let it flow. I am letting it flow, she snapped, her concentration slipping. The sphere wavered dangerously. It's not as easy as shouting orders, Kale. His lips curled into something between a snarl and a smirk. Good. Anger sharpens you. Use it. The sphere pulsed brighter, swelling in her hands. For a moment Arya felt a thrill, control, power, possibility. But then it surged too fast, too hot. Her arms jerked as the energy threatened to explode outward. Kale, she gasped. He was there instantly, his hands clamping over hers. His wolf strength forced her trembling limbs steady, his body shielding hers. Breathe, Arya. Don't let it master you. You master it. Her chest rose and fell in ragged rhythm. His touch was fire and iron all at once, grounding her, pulling her focus from panic to presence. Slowly, shakily, the sphere stabilized, shrinking until it dissolved harmlessly into a fine mist. Arya collapsed forward, her forehead against his chest, gasping for air. Kale's arms wrapped around her instinctively, holding her tight. She felt his heart hammering, faster than her own. That, he said hoarsely, is why I didn't want you near this power. She tilted her head up, meeting his gaze. His eyes were molten gold, not just with anger but with something rawer, fear. I controlled it, she whispered. You nearly lost it, he countered. His thumb brushed a streak of sweat from her cheek, lingering longer than necessary. One mistake, Arya, and that light will tear through everything in its path, including you. Before she could respond, footsteps echoed behind them. Mira appeared at the cavern's edge, her expression unreadable. You're pushing her too hard, Alpha. Kale stiffened, not releasing Arya. She asked me to train her. That means she does it my way. And your way, Mira said coolly, is to break her before she learns to bend. Arya pulled back from Kale, her breath still ragged. Stop fighting over me like I'm a prize. Chose this. Both of you, deal with it. Her voice cracked with frustration, but the power inside her seemed to echo it, flaring in her veins. She gasped as silver light raced along her arms, unbidden, wild. "Arya!" Kale lunged, but it was too late. The energy burst from her in a wave of shimmering force, slamming against the cavern wall with a thunderous crack. Stone shattered, dust raining down. When the haze cleared, Mira was sprawled on the ground, a cut across her temple where debris had struck. Arya's stomach dropped. "Mira!" She rushed forward, but Kale was faster, pulling the seeress upright, checking her pulse. "She'll live," he muttered, relief shadowed by fury. He turned to Arya, his eyes blazing. "Do you see now? Do you understand why I cannot, why I will not, let you drown yourself in this power?" Tears blurred Arya's vision. "I didn't mean." "I know you didn't," Kale cut in, softer but no less fierce. "But intention doesn't matter when the fire is already spreading." Mira coughed, pushing weakly at his grip. "She needs balance, not chains." "Chains may be the only thing keeping her alive," Kale snapped. Arya's chest heaved. "I won't stop. Not after coming this far." Her voice shook but held firm. "I will learn control, Kale. Even if it terrifies you." Silence fell, broken only by the drip of water from the cavern ceiling. Kale's jaw worked, his whole body tense, torn between rage and something far more desperate. Finally he strode toward her, cupping her face in both hands. His forehead pressed to hers, his breath hot and uneven. "You'll be the death of me," he whispered. Her tears slid against his skin. "Then we'll die together." Their lips crashed together, fierce and trembling, a kiss born not of peace but of defiance and fear and a love too wild to cage. His hands gripped her like he was afraid she'd vanish, and she clung back, the silver glow still faintly pulsing under her skin. When they finally broke apart, Kale's eyes searched hers, raw and unguarded. "Promise me," he murmured. "Promise me you'll stop before it takes you too far." Arya swallowed hard, her heart aching with the weight of it. "I can't promise that. But I promise I'll fight to stay myself. For you." It wasn't enough. But it was all she had. Kale closed his eyes briefly, then pulled her into his arms again, holding her as though he could shield her from the moon itself. And in that moment, with Mira watching silently and the cavern scarred by her power, Arya knew the war was no longer just outside their walls. It was inside them too. Chapter 19: The Siege of Shadows. The alarm bells shattered the night. Arya bolted upright, her pulse pounding. Shouts echoed through the stone halls, wolves snarling, steel clashing. She could already smell it: blood, smoke, the bitter tang of fear. Kale was already moving, half-shifted, golden eyes blazing. "They've come for us. Here." Her breath caught. "But the walls. Walls mean nothing to traitors who know the gates." His voice was a snarl as he pulled a sword from its rack. "Stay in this room. Do not leave until I return." Her stomach twisted. "No, Arya." His tone was a command, the Alpha's voice that brooked no disobedience. "I swore I'd keep you safe. Don't make me fail." And then he was gone, vanishing into the chaos. The silence that followed was unbearable. Arya's hands shook as the sounds of battle roared closer. Steel on steel, wolf howls, screams. This wasn't just an attack, it was slaughter. Her chest heaved. She had power in her veins, burning like coals, and he wanted her to sit in the dark while wolves bled for her. Whoa. Arya tore the door open and ran. The corridors were a nightmare. Smoke curled through the air where fires had been set. Broken bodies littered the floor, wolves and traitors both. She ducked under a blade, stumbled past snarling warriors, until she reached the great hall. And there chaos reigned. The rebels had breached the castle heart. Wolves clashed in frenzied combat, their fur slick with blood. Rogues, men and women with wild eyes, fought like demons, throwing themselves against Kale's loyalists. And at the center of it all was Kale, his great black wolf form tearing through enemies like a storm. But even he was outnumbered. wounds already streaking his flanks. Arya's heart twisted. If he fell, the pack would collapse. The fire inside her rose, surging, demanding release. She clenched her fists, her breath ragged. Protect him. The power burst free. Silver light exploded from her hands, sweeping across the hall in a shockwave. Wolves and men alike staggered back, stunned. The rebels closest to Chaol were flung aside, their weapons shattered by the force. Every eye turned toward her. For a heartbeat, silence. Oh, horror. Moonborn, someone whispered. Chaol froze mid-battle, his wolf form shifting back, blood streaking his bare chest. His eyes locked on her, wide with fury and fear. Arya! He started, but then the rebels roared. She's the weapon, one of them shouted. Take her! They charged at her. Arya's pulse spiked. She threw up her hands, silver threads weaving instinctively into a shield. Blades clanged against it, sparks flying, but the strain tore at her muscles. Her vision blurred, her knees buckling. Then Chaol was there, sword flashing, cutting down the first wave that dared touch her. His roar shook the hall. She is mine. You will not have her. But still they came. Arya's panic sharpened into defiance. She let the light flow, not resisting this time but guiding it. The threads wove into lances of silver that shot forward, striking the rebels squarely. They screamed, dropping their weapons as the energy seared them. The hall filled with blinding light. When it cleared, the rebels lay broken, the survivors fleeing through shattered doors. The pack stared, panting, bloodied, their eyes wide. Arya's chest heaved, her body trembling with exhaustion. The power flickered around her still, unwilling to fully fade. She felt their gazes, fear, reverence, doubt. Chaol strode to her side, his face unreadable. He caught her before she collapsed, cradling her against his chest. You disobeyed me, he said softly, almost gently. Her lips parted. I saved you. For a long moment they stared at each other, neither yielding. Then Chaol raised his head, his voice carrying through the hall. She is my mate, Iluna. The moon herself chose her. If any here doubt her place, speak now. The silence was thick. No one spoke. But their eyes said everything, fear, awe, suspicion. Arya's heart ached. She had protected him, yes. But at what cost? Because now the pack didn't just see her as Chaol's Luna. They saw her as something else entirely. Something dangerous. Chapter 20 Whispers of a Witch. The great hall still reeked of blood and smoke. Arya sat on the steps of the throne, her body aching, her mind reeling. She could still feel it, the threads of silver fire burning in her veins, restless even though the battle was over. Around her, wolves dragged the dead from the hall, their claws scraping stone, their breath harsh. The survivors gave her sidelong glances, quick and furtive, as if staring too long might draw the silver onto them. Chaol had left her only briefly to see the gates secured. Now he returned, his bare chest streaked with blood, his hair wild. He crouched before her, his golden eyes dark with worry. You shouldn't have done it, he murmured, brushing blood from her cheek. You nearly burned yourself hollow. Arya swallowed hard. If I hadn't, they would have killed you. A muscle ticked in his jaw. You think I fear death. It is your life I will not risk. Her lips parted, words caught in her throat. She wanted to argue, to insist she wasn't helpless. But exhaustion dragged at her, and all she could do was lean into his hand. From the shadows of the hall, murmurs rose. Wolves gathering, butching. Chaol rose to his full height and turned to face them. This rebellion has been crushed, he declared, his voice carrying like thunder. Those who stood against us lie broken. And it was because of her. He pointed to Arya. Your Luna, the moon's chosen. She saved your lives tonight. The silence that followed was heavy, too heavy. Then a voice called out. Or she cursed them. Gasps rippled. An older warrior stepped forward, his fur still matted with blood. His eyes were hard, his voice sharp. We've all heard the stories. Moonborns bring ruin. They burn bright but they scorch everything around them. How long before her power turns on us? Arya flinched. Another joined him, a young she-wolf clutching a wound. My brother is dead. Her light killed him as easily as it did the traitors. You call that salvation? Murmurs swelled. Fear, suspicion, resentment. Kale's snarl cut through the noise. Careful. You dare spit on the one who saved your lives. But the words didn't silence them. If anything, they made the whispers sharper. Earth. Weapon. Arya's chest tightened. She wanted to speak, to explain she hadn't meant to hurt anyone, that she barely understood what she'd unleashed. But the weight of their eyes silenced her. Kale turned to her, his hand brushing hers. His voice softened just for her. Do not listen. They are afraid, nothing more. But fear had teeth. Fear could topple kingdoms. By morning, the council was summoned. The chamber stank of smoke from the fires outside. Wolves sat in a circle, some bandaged, all grim. Kale stood at the center, his hand resting lightly on Arya's shoulder, as though daring anyone to challenge her. The first to speak was Elder Varric. His silver beard stained red. The rebellion may have failed, but the castle nearly fell. And it was not Kale's blade that turned the tide. It was hers. His sharp eyes pinned Arya. We cannot ignore what she is. She is my mate, Kale growled. She is moonborn. Varric's voice cracked like a whip. A danger. Another elder, softer in tone but no less wary, leaned forward. Kale, we know your bond blinds you. But this pack cannot gamble its future on a power it doesn't understand. What if next time she loses control? What if next time she burns us? Arya's stomach churned. Their words were blades, carving at her. Kale's grip tightened. If not for her, you'd all be corpses. Do you forget so quickly? Do you forget our history? Varric shot back. The last Moonborn destroyed her own pack in a frenzy. Entire villages burned. You'd risk the same fate here. The chamber erupted in heated voices. Some agreed, others shouted them down, but every word was about her. Curse, savior, weapon, witch. Finally, Kale's roar silenced them. Enough. I'm Alpha. My word is law. She stays as my mate, as your Luna. Challenge me, and challenge death itself. The room fell into sullen quiet. But their eyes told the truth. This wasn't the end. Later, alone in their chambers, Arya sat by the window, staring at the blood-streaked horizon. Kale poured water over his wounds, but his gaze never left her. You heard them, she whispered. They are cowards. They're your pack. Her voice cracked. And they hate me. Kale crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. His voice was low, fierce. They fear you. That is different. Fear turns into hate. Hate turns into knives. For once, he didn't argue. His silence was heavier than any words. Her chest ached. What if they're right? What if I can't control it? Felt it, Kale. It wanted more. It wanted everything. His thumb brushed her cheek. His eyes dark with something she couldn't name. Then I will chain the world itself if I must, but I will not lose you. She swallowed, torn between comfort and dread. Because his promise wasn't just love, it was obsession. An obsession could destroy them both. That night, whispers spread like wildfire. Servants muttered of the Luna's silver fire. Warriors wondered if she had truly saved them, or merely shown them what she might one day unleash. And in the dark corners of the castle, conspirators spoke in hushed tones. If the Alpha won't rid us of her, one murmured, then we must take matters into our own hands. The rebellion was broken. But the true danger was only just beginning. Chapter 21, Blades in the Dark. Sleep was a stranger that night. Arya lay on Kale's furs, staring at the carved beams above. The silver fire still hummed under her skin, restless, insistent, as if it had been awakened fully and would never let her rest again. Kale's arm draped over her waist, his breathing slow and deep. He slept like a man who trusted no one would dare touch him. But Arya knew better. She had seen the eyes in the council chamber. Fear was sharper than steel, and fear made wolves reckless. A faint creak echoed in the dark. Her body stiffened. Not Kale. He slept soundly beside her. Not the wind, the windows were shuttered. The hairs on her neck rose. A shadow slid along the far wall, silent as death. Her lips parted to warn Kale. Then the dagger flashed. Arya reacted before thought, before breath. The silver fire leapt from her like lightning, blasting the room in a searing glow. The shadow screamed, convulsing as the blade clattered to the floor. Kale bolted upright, his claws unsheathing, his wolf surging. He lunged, dragging the smoking intruder into the moonlight. It was a young warrior, one she recognized. Joran, no older than 20. His eyes wide with hate and terror. "She's a witch," he choked, writhing under Kale's grip. His arm was blackened where Arya's light had scorched him. "She'll kill us all." Kale slammed him against the wall, teeth bared. "You dare raise a hand against your Luna?" Joran spat blood. "Better one dead than the whole pack damned." Kale's claws sank into his throat. Arya leapt from the bed, her voice hoarse. "Kale, stop." The alpha froze, his golden eyes feral. His wolf clawing to finish it. "He came to murder you," he growled. "He deserves no mercy." "Please," she whispered. Her own voice shook, not with pity for Joran, but with horror at herself. At the power that had burst from her without thought, that had nearly burned him alive. Kale's chest heaved. For a heartbeat, she thought he would tear Joran apart. Then he flung the boy to the floor, snarling. "Get him out of my sight. If he comes near her again, I will rip his heart out with my bare hands." Guards rushed in, summoned by the commotion. They dragged Joran away, his curses echoing down the hall. Silence fell, broken only by the rasp of Arya's breath. Kale turned to her. His fury was gone, but his eyes burned with something worse, fear. Not of the assassin, of her. "You didn't hesitate," he said softly. Arya hugged herself, her skin still glowing faintly with silver threads. "I didn't think. It just happened." Kale stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers but not quite touching. "That power. It answers you too easily." Her throat closed. "Do you see it now? They were right. I'm dangerous." He caught her chin, forcing her gaze to his. His voice was fierce, almost desperate. "No, you're mine. That is all that matters." But she saw the flicker in his eyes, the hesitation he tried to bury. For the first time, Kale feared her too. By dawn, the castle was boiling with whispers. The news of Joran's attempt spread like fire. But worse still was the tale of what happened in that chamber. The silver blaze, the smell of scorched flesh, the boy's screams. Some muttered that the Luna was untouchable, blessed by the moon herself. Others whispered darker words, witch, curse, monster. The council convened again, voices sharp and divided. "She is no Luna," Varric declared. "She is a weapon that will one day turn on us all. The assassin should be praised, not punished." "You speak treason," one of Kale's loyalists barked. "Treason," Varric spat. "What of protecting the pack? She burned one of our own alive. He tried to murder her. He saw the truth." The chamber erupted into chaos. Arya sat silent at Kale's side. Her hands clenched so tightly the nails bit into her palms. Every word was another stone added to the weight crushing her chest. Finally, Kale roared for silence. "This ends now. My mate stays. My Luna reigns beside me. Any who defy this will meet my teeth." The room fell quiet, cowed by his fury. But their eyes told a different story. When the council dismissed, Arya lingered behind, staring at the carved wolf sigil above the hearth. Her voice trembled as she finally spoke. "Kale, how many more will come for me?" "As many as it takes," he said darkly. I'll kill them all. His vow should have comforted her. Instead, it chilled her to the bone. Because the question clawed at her, sharper than any blade. What if, in the end, they weren't wrong to fear her? That night, Arya dreamed of fire. Not silver light, not moonlight's glow, but raging flames that consumed everything. Wolves screaming, Kale's golden eyes going dark. Her own hands drenched in light she couldn't control. And through the smoke, a whisper. "You're not savior. You're doom." She woke with a scream, the silver fire blazing from her skin, lighting the chamber like a storm. Kale held her, murmuring her name, but his arms trembled. And for the first time, she wondered if she was destined not to save this pack, but to destroy it. Chapter 22, The Fire That Hungers. The courtyard was silent except for the sound of Arya's ragged breathing. Her hands glowed faintly, threads of silver fire pulsing like veins of lightning beneath her skin. Every beat of her heart made the light stronger, brighter, more insistent. "Again," Kale ordered, standing a few paces away. His golden eyes were sharp, unyielding. Arya's jaw clenched. "Kale, I can't." "You will," he cut in. "Better here with me, than in the middle of another battle when you lose control." She hated him for being right. Hated the truth that her power was as dangerous to her pack as the enemies who wanted her dead. She spread her hands, willing the silver light to obey. It flared, hot and alive, wrapping her fingers like molten chains. For a moment she thought she had it, contained, controlled. Then it surged. The nearest column cracked, stone sizzling under her touch. Arya gasped, snuffing it out, her chest heaving. "It's not listening." Kale stalked closer, catching her wrists. His grip was firm, his voice low. "Then you make it listen. You are Luna. You command." Her throat burned with frustration. "It doesn't feel like mine. It feels like it's using me." For the first time his gaze flickered. "Then you fight it. Or it will eat you alive." Days bled into nights, training and failure, control and collapse. Sometimes she managed to hold the light steady, wrapping it into a shield that shimmered around her body. Other times it lashed out like a whip, burning whatever it touched. Stone, wood, Kale's own skin when he got too close. He never flinched. Never left her side. But his loyalty wasn't enough to silence the whispers that slithered through the castle halls. She burned him. She'll burn us all. The alphas blinded by his obsession. Each word dug deeper, until Arya could barely look her packmates in the eye. On the 7th night, an elder came to her chambers. Not Varric, not one of her enemies, but a bent old she-wolf with clouded eyes. Elder Mirren. "You train to master what cannot be mastered," the woman rasped, her cane tapping the floor. Arya stiffened. "Then what do you suggest? I stop. Let it destroy me." Mirren chuckled, dry as dust. "Child, moonborn fire does not destroy its vessel. Consumes others. Always has. Always will." Arya's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" The elder leaned closer, her milky eyes gleaming. "Every moonborn I've seen, every story told, they end the same. Villages ash, packs scattered. Their own mates broken by the fire's hunger. It is not power you wield. It is hunger given flesh." Her voice dropped, almost a whisper. "The fire does not serve you. Chooses you. And once chosen, there is no release." Mirren shuffled away, leaving Arya trembling in the dark. That night, her dreams were sharper. She saw herself standing on a field of corpses, her hands blazing silver, her wolf howling in agony. Kale lay at her feet, his chest burned open, his golden eyes turned black. And in the dream she smiled. When she woke she was glowing. Her sheets smoldered where her skin touched. Kale grabbed her wrists, his voice sharp. "Arya! Focus!" She gasped, trying to rein it in, but the fire surged brighter, wrapping around her arms like chains. "I can't." "Yes, you can." He pulled her against him, ignoring the searing heat. "You are not its slave. You are mine. Mine." The words struck through the fire like a blade. The glow flickered, sputtered, dimmed. Arya collapsed against him, trembling. Kale held her. His own skin blistered from the burns. His voice was ragged, almost pleading. "Don't let it take you from me." She pressed her face into his chest, fighting tears. Because deep down she feared it already was. The next morning when she stepped into the courtyard, the guards flinched back. Wolves who once bowed to her now avoided her gaze. Children whispered and hid behind their mothers. And as she stood in the sunlight, the silver fire pulsed beneath her skin, eager, restless. Not waiting for enemies. Waiting for anyone. Her power didn't just belong to her. It wanted everything. And sooner or later, it would take it. Chapter 23. Fire before the pack. The hall was crowded with wolves. For the first time since the rebellion, Kale had summoned his people together. He wanted unity, wanted them to see their Alpha and Luna standing side by side, strong and unbroken. Arya stood beside him, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. She could feel the stares, sharp as blades, piercing her from every direction, some filled with awe, others with suspicion. Kale's voice thundered through the chamber. "The rebellion has been silenced. The traitors lie in the ground. But this pack endures because we stand together. Because we will never be divided again." Murmurs of agreement rippled, though not all. Arya swallowed hard, her throat dry. She had prepared a speech, carefully woven words to show them she was not a curse, not a monster. Just a woman who wanted to serve as their Luna. But before she could speak, the doors burst open. A wounded scout staggered in, blood streaking his face. "Rogues at the gates," he gasped. "Dozens. They're breaking through." Chaos erupted. Wolves shouted, chairs toppled, claws scraped stone. Kale's snarl silenced them. "Form ranks." He leapt forward, already shifting, his golden wolf bursting free. Warriors followed, the hall trembling under the roar of battle preparations. Arya's heart pounded. She wanted to run to Kale's side to fight with him. But before she could move, the doors shattered. Rogues poured into the hall, savage and frothing, their eyes wild with bloodlust. The pack scrambled to defend themselves, but they were caught off guard, unprepared. A child screamed as a rogue lunged toward her. Arya didn't think. The silver fire erupted from her body in a wave, slamming into the rogue mid-leap. He hit the wall with a sickening crack, his fur smoking. Gasps filled the hall. The fire didn't stop. It spread across the floor, wrapping the pack in a shimmering shield. Rogues struck it and burned, their howls filling the chamber as they collapsed, writhing. Arya stood in the center, glowing like a star, her hands outstretched, her breath ragged. The wolves stared. Some dropped to their knees, awestruck. "The moon blesses her," one whispered. "She's our salvation." Others recoiled, their eyes wide with horror. "She's unnatural. She'll kill us all." Arya's chest heaved. She pulled the fire back, forcing it into her veins again, though it resisted, clawing to be free. The rogues lay smoldering, defeated. The hall was silent but for the crackle of embers. Kale strode to her, blood streaking his fur. He shifted back, naked and fierce, his eyes blazing. He caught her hand, lifting it high. "You see. Without her you'd all be corpses. She's Luna. She is chosen." Some wolves howled in agreement, slamming fists to their chests. Others turned away, their faces pale, their whispers venomous. "Too much power. She'll burn us next." The alphas blinded by lust. Arya's victory felt hollow. The more she saved them, the more she lost them. That night, the council chamber stank of smoke and fear. "She cannot be trusted," Varric hissed. "Every time her fire appears it grows. Next time it will consume not just rogues, but us." "She saved children today," one loyalist argued. "And nearly scorched the hall with them." Varric spat. Another elder leaned forward, voice low. "The pack murmurs in the dark. They say Kale is no longer alpha. They say he's her thrall, that he bows to her light. Kale snarled, slamming a fist against the table. I bow to no one. But Arya felt the weight of their words sink deep into her bones. When the meeting ended, she lingered in the shadows. She heard them whisper as they left. If Kale won't rid us of her, then perhaps we rid ourselves of him. The words hit harder than any blade. It was no longer only her they feared. Now they were plotting against the man she loved. Arya returned to their chambers shaken, her body trembling with exhaustion and dread. Kale found her by the window, staring at the darkened courtyard below. You heard them, he said quietly. She didn't look at him. They'll come for you, to save themselves from me. Kale's hand slid along her waist, his voice fierce. Let them try. I'll kill every last one. Her throat tightened. Kale, what if they're right? What if I can't stop this fire? He pressed his forehead against hers, his eyes burning. Then let it burn the world. I will still choose you. His vow should have steadied her. Instead, it terrified her. Because deep down, she feared the world wouldn't have to burn. She might destroy it herself. Chapter 24. Shadows against the Alpha. The air in the castle grew thick with tension. Everywhere Arya went, eyes followed. Some filled with devotion, wolves bowing deeper than before, whispering prayers to the moon as if she were a living shrine. Others glared with undisguised hatred, muttering curses when they thought she couldn't hear. And at the center of it all stood Kale, unyielding, fierce. His golden eyes dared anyone to challenge her place by his side. But fear could not be silenced by snarls alone. It began with disappearances. A guard who once spat the word witch at her during training suddenly vanished. His armor left behind at the gate. A counselor who argued most loudly against her was found dead in his chambers, his throat torn open as if by rogue claws, though no rogues had breached the walls. The pack whispered. Some said it was Kale's doing, that he hunted dissent in the night. Others said it was her, that her fire devoured those who spoke against her. Arya asked Kale about the dead, her voice trembling. Was it you? His expression was unreadable. Does it matter? Yes, she snapped. They're your people. They were traitors, he growled. They wanted to take you from me. The fire in her chest stirred, as if pleased by his rage. She pressed her hands against her heart, whispering, not mine, not me. But the whisper came back, silver and sharp, ours. At night she dreamed of voices. Not just one now, but many. Wolves screaming, crying out her name, begging for mercy. Her hands burned with fire, her wolf howling as the light consumed everything. When she woke, the fire still clung to her skin, flickering faintly. Kale would hold her, whispering vows. They don't understand you. But I do. You are not a curse. You are destiny. His devotion should have comforted her. Instead, it felt like chains. One evening, she slipped into the lower halls, searching for quiet. That was when she heard them. A cluster of wolves huddled in the shadows, their voices low but urgent. Kale has lost his mind. He lets her burn rogues, burn warriors, burn anyone she pleases. He's not Alpha anymore. He's her thrall. Then we must act. Remove him before the fire devours us all. Arya's blood ran cold. She pressed back against the stone, heart hammering. The fire stirred, eager, as if it wanted her to step out, to silence them with light. Her fingers glowed faintly. No, she whispered, forcing it down. Not now. She stumbled away before they sensed her. By the time she reached her chambers, her hands were still trembling. Kale saw her pale face, his expression hardening. What happened? He told him. His fury was immediate, his claws half-shifting. They plot against me. Against you. Kale, please don't kill them, she begged. His golden eyes burned. You think I'll let them breathe after threatening you? They're afraid. Her voice cracked. If you slaughter them, you'll prove them right. For a moment, silence stretched between them, thick as smoke. Then Kale pulled her against him, his breath harsh. "Let them call me tyrant, beast, madman, I don't care. I will drown this world in blood before I let them take you from me." Arya clutched his shoulders, torn between love and terror. Because the truth was clear. He wasn't fighting just for her anymore. He was fighting for possession. And the fire inside her, hungry, restless, thrummed in agreement. Later that night, Arya stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes glowed faintly, even in darkness. Her skin shimmered with light she couldn't extinguish. For the first time, she didn't see herself. She saw a stranger. And in the back of her mind, the fire whispered again. "We are not yours. You are ours." Chapter 25. The Blood Moon Council. The council chamber had always been a place of ritual. Stone columns, burning braziers, the scent of incense thick in the air. Tonight it reeked of conspiracy. Kale sat at the high table, shoulders squared, golden eyes blazing. Arya stood at his side, her hand cold in his. Around them the elders gathered. Some bowed stiffly. Others refused to meet her gaze at all. The blood moon hung above, pouring silver light through the open roof. The eldest counselor, Marek, spoke first. His voice was sharp as a blade. "Alpha Kale, we have tolerated your defiance. We have endured your rejection of tradition. But tonight it ends." Kale's growl rumbled through the hall. "You dare!" But Marek lifted a hand, and dozens of warriors stepped forward. Not guards of Kale's choosing. These wore the sigil of the council. Arya's heart stopped. "Who? You are unfit to rule," Marek declared. "You have bound yourself to a witch. Fireborn. You endanger us all." Arya felt the weight of 100 eyes pierce her. Fear. Hatred. Desperation. Kale rose, power rolling off him like a storm. "Touch her, and I'll rip you apart." But for the first time he was outnumbered. The warriors surged forward. Happened fast. Steel clashed. Wolves shifted mid-leap. Blood splattered across the stone floor. Kale fought like a god of war, his claws tearing, his teeth snapping. But there were too many. They swarmed him, dragging him down, chains snapping around his wrists. Silver chains. "Kale!" Arya screamed, rushing forward, only to be seized by 2 warriors. Their claws dug into her arms, holding her tight. "Kill her," Marek commanded coldly. "End the curse." The fire inside her surged, screaming to be released. "No," she gasped, fighting it. "If I unleash it, I'll prove them right. I'll prove I'm a monster." Kale thrashed against the chains, his voice raw. "Arya! Don't give them what they want." But the warriors raised their blades. And something inside her broke. Light exploded. It tore from her chest in a searing wave, flinging her captors across the hall. Their screams echoed as flames consumed them, their bodies crumbling to ash before they even struck the floor. The fire roared, wrapping around her like wings. The brazier flames bent toward her, as if bowing to their master. Every eye widened. Terror spread. Marek stumbled back, his voice trembling. "By the moon, she is no Luna. She is a goddamn weapon." Arya turned, her vision edged in firelight. The warriors holding Kale froze, paralyzed by fear. She raised her hand. Fire curled at her fingertips. "Let go." They obeyed, dropping the chains as if they burned. Kale staggered free, his golden eyes wide, not with fear but with awe. The fire whispered inside her, "Ours. This is who we are." She wanted to scream. Instead, she lifted her hand higher, and the entire council chamber blazed with silver fire. Stone cracked. Torches shattered. Wolves fell to their knees, begging, sobbing, calling her moon-born queen. But she didn't feel like a queen. She felt like destruction. When the fire finally dimmed, the chamber was unrecognizable. Half the council was dead. The rest cowered, their loyalty won by terror, not love. Kale caught her as she swayed. His arms strong around her trembling body. "You saved me," he whispered, his voice breaking. Her throat was raw. Or doomed us all. Because in their eyes, every wolf in that chamber, she wasn't just Kale's Luna anymore. She was the monster they feared. The goddess they prayed to. The fire's vessel. And deep inside, where no one could hear, she wondered if she'd already lost herself. Chapter 26. Ashes of a Queen. The council chamber still smelled of death. Smoke clung to the rafters. Ash drifted across the cracked floor like snow. Wolves moved quietly through the wreckage, dragging away the bodies of those who had fallen. Loyalists, traitors, innocents alike. No one spoke above a whisper. And every whisper carried her name. Arya. Luna. A goddess. Monster. Arya sat at the edge of the shattered dais, her hands trembling in her lap. They were clean now. Kale had wiped away the soot and blood, but she still felt the fire coiled beneath her skin, eager, restless, hungry. Kale stood before the pack. His voice steady even though his body still bore the burns of silver. The council tried to steal our future. They failed. They will not rise again. A ripple of uneasy murmurs moved through the crowd. Some wolves bowed their heads in agreement. Others kept their eyes fixed on Arya. One brave elder stepped forward. His fur had gone gray. His frame stooped with age, but his voice rang clear. Alpha. No one doubts your strength. But what sits beside you? He gestured at Arya as if pointing at a blade pressed to his throat. Is she wolf? Is she witch? Or is she something worse? The words sliced through the hall. Arya flinched. Kale's growl shook the stone walls. She is mine. But the elder did not bow. He knelt. Not to Kale. To her. Moon-born queen, he whispered. We saw the fire choose you. Tell us what you are. Every gaze turned to her. The air thickened with expectation. With dread. Arya's lips parted. For a heartbeat, she almost let the fire answer. It wanted to, its voice was hot in her skull, whispering promises of dominion, of kingdoms burned and reborn. But Kale's hand brushed hers, grounding her, steadying her. She swallowed hard. I am not your queen, she said softly. I am your Luna. Your Alpha's mate. Nothing more. Lie. The fire hissed inside her like a caged beast. That night, the pack's loyalties fractured further. Some lit candles in her name, leaving offerings at the doors of her chamber. Others avoided her entirely, crossing themselves with old symbols of protection when she passed. Kale tried to command unity, but even he could not deny the fear in their eyes. In the quiet hours, Arya curled against him, listening to the slow, steady beat of his heart. They'll never accept me, she whispered. His arm tightened around her. They will. Or I'll tear out their throats until they do. He shuddered. That's what they fear. That you've lost yourself to me. He tilted her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. Then let them fear. I would rather be hated with you than loved without you. His words should have soothed her. Instead they hollowed her chest. Because she knew something he didn't. The fire was changing her. Every time she used it, it clung to her longer. It whispered louder. It didn't just want survival, it wanted conquest. And worst of all, sometimes when she touched Kale, she felt it stir, eager to claim him too. Days turned into weeks. The ruins of the council chamber were rebuilt stone by stone, but trust did not return so easily. Arya tried to help, tending to wounded, playing with pups, offering comfort, but everywhere she went, shadows followed. The pups adored her. The mothers tolerated her. The warriors watched her hands too closely, waiting for fire to spark. One night, as Kale slept, she crept to the balcony and stared at the blood moon's fading glow. Is this what you wanted? She whispered into the night. To turn me into a weapon. To make me fear the man I love. The fire did not answer in words. It answered with hunger. Her palm burned, and for a moment she imagined reaching out, just brushing her fingers across Kale's bare chest. What if the fire leapt into him? What if it hollowed him out the way it had hollowed her? Her stomach turned. If loving him means destroying him. She pressed her burning palm to her lips, smothering a sob. Then maybe I should let him go. Chapter 26. Ashes of a Queen. The council chamber still smelled of death. Smoke clung to the rafters. Ash drifted across the cracked floor like snow. Wolves moved quietly through the wreckage, dragging away the bodies of those who had fallen. Loyalists, traitors, innocents alike. No one spoke above a whisper. And every whisper carried her name. Arya. Luna. A goddess. Monster. Arya sat at the edge of the shattered dais, her hands trembling in her lap. They were clean now. Kale had wiped away the soot and blood, but she still felt the fire coiled beneath her skin, eager, restless, hungry. Kale stood before the pack, his voice steady even though his body still bore the burns of silver. The council tried to steal our future. They failed. They will not rise again. A ripple of uneasy murmurs moved through the crowd. Some wolves bowed their heads in agreement. Others kept their eyes fixed on Arya. One brave elder stepped forward. His fur had gone gray, his frame stooped with age, but his voice rang clear. Alpha. No one doubts your strength. But what sits beside you? He gestured at Arya as if pointing at a blade pressed to his throat. Is she wolf? Is she witch? Or is she something worse? The words sliced through the hall. Arya flinched. Kale's growl shook the stone walls. She is mine. But the elder did not bow. He knelt. Not to Kale. To her. Moon-born queen, he whispered. We saw the fire choose you. Tell us what you are. Every gaze turned to her. The air thickened with expectation. With dread. Arya's lips parted. For a heartbeat, she almost let the fire answer. It wanted to, its voice was hot in her skull, whispering promises of dominion, of kingdoms burned and reborn. But Kale's hand brushed hers, grounding her, steadying her. She swallowed hard. I am not your queen, she said softly. I am your Luna, your Alpha's mate. Nothing more. Lie. The fire hissed inside her like a caged beast. That night, the pack's loyalties fractured further. Some lit candles in her name, leaving offerings at the doors of her chamber. Others avoided her entirely, crossing themselves with old symbols of protection when she passed. Kale tried to command unity, but even he could not deny the fear in their eyes. In the quiet hours, Arya curled against him, listening to the slow, steady beat of his heart. They'll never accept me, she whispered. His arm tightened around her. They will. Or I'll tear out their throats until they do. He shuddered. That's what they fear. That you've lost yourself to me. He tilted her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. Then let them fear. I would rather be hated with you than loved without you. His words should have soothed her. Instead they hollowed her chest. Because she knew something he didn't. The fire was changing her. Every time she used it, it clung to her longer. It whispered louder. It didn't just want survival, it wanted conquest. And worst of all, sometimes when she touched Kale, she felt it stir, eager to claim him too. Days turned into weeks. The ruins of the council chamber were rebuilt stone by stone, but trust did not return so easily. Arya tried to help, tending to wounded, playing with pups, offering comfort, but everywhere she went, shadows followed. The pups adored her. The mothers tolerated her. The warriors watched her hands too closely, waiting for fire to spark. One night, as Kale slept, she crept to the balcony and stared at the blood moon's fading glow. Is this what you wanted? She whispered into the night. To turn me into a weapon. To make me fear the man I love. The fire did not answer in words. It answered with hunger. Her palm burned, and for a moment she imagined reaching out, just brushing her fingers across Kale's bare chest. What if the fire leapt into him? What if it hollowed him out the way it had hollowed her? Her stomach turned. If loving him means destroying him. She pressed her burning palm to her lips, smothering a sob. Then maybe I should let him go. Chapter 27. The Luna Who Ran. The night she left, The pack slept soundly, unaware their Luna was tearing herself apart. Arya sat at Kale's bedside, watching the rise and fall of his chest. The moonlight spilled across his bare skin, tracing every scar, every line of strength that had once felt like home. She reached out, brushing her fingers lightly across his jaw, memorizing the warmth of him. He stirred but didn't wake. She bent closer, her whisper trembling. "I love you enough to leave you." The words shattered her. But she stood anyway. She slipped from the chamber, her cloak pulled tight, a small pack slung across her shoulder. No guards stopped her. Kale had dismissed them tonight, trusting that no danger lurked within the heart of his own stronghold. If only he'd known the danger slept beside him. The forest swallowed her quickly, its shadows thick with silence. Each step away from the packhouse made her lungs ache more. The bond tugged at her chest like a chain, begging her to turn back. "This is mercy," she told herself. "Better he hates me for leaving than dies because of me." The fire purred inside her, mocking. "You think you can protect him by running? Foolish girl. You are not mercy. You are ruin." She clenched her fists until her nails drew blood. "Shut up," she hissed. But the night had other voices waiting. A snap of twigs. The smell of metal and smoke. Hunters. They emerged from the trees like shadows come alive. Men with silver-tipped arrows and blessed blades, their faces hidden behind wolf-bone masks. Their leader raised a crossbow, the bolt glinting wickedly. "Moon-born witch," he growled. "The council put a bounty on your head. Alive or dead." Arya froze, her breath catching. "Course. They wouldn't let me just vanish." The fire surged eagerly, begging for release. But if she burned them, the flames would spread, lighting the forest like a beacon. Kale would know. He would come. And she couldn't let him. "I don't want to fight," she said, voice low, shaking. The leader sneered. "Good. Makes this easier." He loosed the bolt. Arya moved without thought. Fire snapped from her palm, vaporizing the arrow mid-air. The forest lit up, shadows dancing violently against the trees. The hunters faltered, but only for a breath. "Take her!" They surged forward. Ran. Branches whipped her face, roots clawed at her boots. The fire seared her veins with every pounding heartbeat. Hunters crashed after her, their shouts echoing, their weapons flashing in the moonlight. One caught her cloak, yanking her back. She spun, flames erupting, and his mask melted to his screaming face. She shoved him aside, bile rising in her throat. "Monster! Monster!" Still she ran. But she wasn't the only predator in the dark. The growls came first, low, guttural, too deep to be human. Then yellow eyes glimmered between the trees. A rival pack. Rogues drawn by the scent of blood and fire. Trap. Hunters on one side, wolves on the other. Arya's chest heaved. Her knees trembled. "Not like this," she whispered. "Please, not like this." The fire coiled around her heart, purring. "Then stop running. Let me have them." She squeezed her eyes shut. "If I do, Kale will feel it. He'll come." The bond pulsed, a golden thread tugging at her soul. Already, she felt him stirring awake miles away. Her choice was gone. The night erupted into chaos. Fire roared from her body, swallowing trees, hunters, wolves alike. Screams cut through the dark, the stench of burning fur and flesh thick in the air. She was a storm, unstoppable, merciless. The fire moved faster than thought, striking down everything that dared to touch her. When the last scream faded, silence fell. Ash drifted across the blackened clearing. Bodies lay twisted, charred beyond recognition. The forest around her smoldered like the ruins of a battlefield. And Arya stood alone, shaking, tears carving tracks through the soot on her cheeks. A howl split the night. Not a rogue's howl. Her knees buckled. The bond pulled tight, closer, closer, until he burst through the smoke, golden eyes blazing with fury and fear. He took in the carnage. The hunters. The wolves. The fire still simmering at her fingertips. "Arya!" His voice cracked. "What have you done?" Her lips trembled. What I had to. The fire whispered inside her, smug and certain. And he will never look at you the same again. Chapter 28, Flames Between Us. Cale stood at the edge of the clearing, chest heaving. His golden eyes locked on her through the haze of smoke. Behind him, shadows moved. Warriors who had followed his desperate summons. They stopped dead when they saw the carnage. The burned trees. The piles of ash. The half-melted weapons gleaming like bones under the moonlight. And Arya. Her cloak torn, her face streaked with soot, her hands still glowing faintly with fire. The silence was unbearable. Then Cale moved. He crossed the distance in a blur, seizing her wrists. His grip was firm but trembling, the silver in his rings biting into her skin. What the hell were you thinking? His voice was hoarse, raw, every word scraping like broken glass. Tears welled in her eyes. I was protecting you. By running away. His snarl echoed off the scorched trees. By slaughtering half the forest. Arya's chest caved. They cornered me. Hunters. Rogues. I didn't want to. You did. His voice cracked, the truth cutting deeper than any blade. I can feel it through the bond. You didn't just fight. You unleashed. The warriors behind him murmured uneasily. She caught their whispers. Witch, monster, curse. Cale whirled, his voice thunderous. Silence. Pack fell quiet. But their eyes said what their lips dared not, fear. Cale dragged her away from the clearing, away from the accusing stares, until they were alone in the charred ruins of a hollow tree. Only then did his fury falter, replaced by something worse, anguish. He cupped her face, his hands trembling. Why didn't you tell me you were leaving? Her throat tightened. Because if I stayed you'd die. The fire, it wants you. It whispers about you. If I lose control, if it ever leaps into you, then let it, he cut in, eyes burning with conviction. I'd rather be consumed than live without you. She wrenched back, horror slamming through her. Don't say that. Why not? It's the truth. His voice broke. You think I don't know what you are. I chose you anyway. Arya's chest shook with sobs. You chose the part of me that loves you. Not the part that burned them alive. Cale's hands dropped. For the first time his gaze faltered. When they returned to the pack, dawn painted the sky a sickly red. The warriors had already spread word of what happened. The village was restless. Wolves whispering in the streets, mothers pulling pups inside, elders chanting prayers to ward off evil. Cale stood tall, declaring her his mate, his Luna, his equal. But the cracks were showing. One warrior stepped forward, bold enough to speak. Alpha, with respect. How long until she burns us too? The crowd murmured in agreement. Cale bared his teeth, but Arya laid a hand on his arm, stopping him. Her voice shook but carried. They're right to fear me. Gasps rippled. I fear me too, she admitted, her gaze sweeping the crowd. But I'm not your enemy. I don't want to destroy you. I want to protect you. Some faces softened. Others hardened. The pack was splitting. That night, Arya lay awake, Cale's arm heavy across her waist. His warmth should have soothed her. Instead, she felt the fire inside her coil tighter, almost jealous of the bond between them. She whispered into the dark, If I stay, I'll tear everything apart. The fire purred in agreement. And deep in her bones, she wondered if maybe it was right. Chapter 29, The Crown of Ashes. Word of the massacre traveled faster than wildfire. By the next moon, emissaries from other packs arrived, not with respect, but with wariness, carrying the scent of fear. They did not ask to see Cale. They asked to see her. Arya sat beside him in the council chamber as the doors opened. A tall man entered, draped in a cloak of black wolf fur. His smile sharp as a dagger. His eyes gleamed amber, predatory and amused. Alpha Draven, Cale growled. Cale, the man said smoothly, ignoring him as his gaze slid to Arya. Or should I say, Moonborn Queen. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The title struck her like a blade. Arya forced her voice steady. I am no queen. I am Kale's mate. Draven laughed, the sound low and dangerous. And yet, you burned a forest to ash and bent warriors to their knees. You command a power no alpha has ever wielded. Why waste it chained to one man when you could rule them all? The room chilled. Kale rose in an instant, fury rolling off him. Watch your tongue. But Draven didn't flinch. He circled slowly like a wolf testing prey. She doesn't belong at your side, Kale. She belongs above you. Above all of us. I offer her what you never will, a crown. Gasps filled the hall. Arya's heart pounded. Crown. Power. The fire stirred inside her, thrilled by the offer, whispering that this was her destiny. She clenched her fists until her nails cut skin, desperate to silence it. Kale stepped forward, blocking Draven's view of her. His growl was pure venom. If you ever speak to her again, I will rip out your throat. Draven only smiled wider. Perhaps. But the fire in her veins will never obey you, Kale. You can chain a wolf. You cannot chain a god. That night, the pack seethed with whispers. Wolves questioned their alpha behind closed doors, their doubts fueled by Draven's words. Arya sat alone on the balcony, staring at the stars. The fire hummed in her chest, replaying Draven's offer over and over. Crown. Kingdom. A throne built from ash. Kale found her there, his expression dark. You're thinking about what he said. Her throat tightened. Would it be so wrong if I did? He's right. The fire isn't yours. It isn't mine. It doesn't care about love or bonds. It wants more. Kale's hand gripped the railing, his knuckles white. And do you? The question shattered her. She wanted him. His steadiness, his strength, the way his love made her feel human again. But she also wanted freedom from the fear, the whispers, the weight of being everyone's nightmare and salvation. Her voice cracked. I don't know. The silence between them was heavier than any chains. Days passed, and Draven remained, slithering through the village like a shadow. Some wolves listened to him. Some even believed. Arya saw it in their eyes. The way they looked at her differently now. Not just with fear. With calculation. With hope. One night, a young warrior knelt before her, trembling. Luna, no queen. If you rose, I would follow you. Many of us would. Her blood ran cold. Don't say that. But the fire purred with delight. And in the silence of her heart, she feared the truth. If she ever chose Draven's crown, the pack might follow. Even Kale's. Chapter 30. The Alpha's Challenge. The night was heavy with storm clouds. The moon veiled as though the heavens themselves wished to hide what was about to happen. Arya woke with a start, the echo of breaking glass pulling her from uneasy sleep. She turned, expecting to see Kale beside her, but the bed was empty. A shadow loomed at the balcony doors. Raven. Her heart leapt into her throat. What are you? Shoo. His voice was silk and venom. He stepped closer, his eyes glowing like molten amber. Don't fight me, Arya. You know this cage of a pack cannot hold you. Come with me. I will give you everything you're too afraid to ask for. The fire inside her responded, a dangerous thrill pulsing through her veins. His presence ignited it, feeding the hunger she struggled to silence. She backed away, her breath sharp. You have no right to be here. Draven smirked. And Kale has no right to you. You are not his possession. You are destiny itself. He extended a hand. Choose me, and the world will kneel. Her chest tightened. The offer was intoxicating, terrifying, impossible. But before she could speak, the door slammed open. Kale stormed in, half-shifted, fury radiating from every inch of him. His eyes burned gold, his claws unsheathed. Get away from her. Draven didn't flinch. Ah, the wolf who clings to a power he doesn't understand. Tell me, Kale, are you protecting her, or are you afraid of what she'll become if she realizes she doesn't need you? Kale lunged. The two alphas clashed in an explosion of force, the sound of bone and muscle colliding shaking the chamber. Arya screamed, torn between them as they fought like titans. Kale's strikes were wild with rage, while Draven's movements were calculated, taunting, designed to unbalance him. "You can't cage fire, Kale," Draven roared, slamming him into the wall. "She was born to lead us all, through blood, through ash, through power you'll never touch." Kale snarled, his voice broken with fury. "She was born to be mine." The fight spilled onto the balcony, claws raking stone, teeth snapping. Lightning split the sky above them, illuminating the madness. Arya's hands trembled, the fire surging to life, demanding release. If she unleashed it, she could end this. But who would she burn? Draven, the alpha who offered her a crown? Or Kale, the mate who loved her but feared her power? Draven pinned Kale, his jaws inches from his throat. "Choose, Arya. Me or him." Her breath caught. The storm howled. Her heart tore. And then the fire consumed her. It burst from her skin in a storm of flame, knocking both men apart, searing the balcony rail black. She stood between them, her body alight, her voice shaking with the weight of her choice. "I will not be claimed. Not by you, Draven. Not even by you, Kale. If I am destiny, then I belong to no one but myself." The chamber below erupted with howls as the pack heard her words, torn between awe and terror. Kale staggered to his feet, his chest heaving, his eyes locked on hers. There was no anger in them now, only heartbreak. Draven smiled, blood on his teeth. "So it begins." And then he vanished into the storm, leaving the pack shattered, and Arya's bond with Kale hanging by a thread. Chapter 31. The Luna who defied them. The storm had not passed. By dawn, the skies still churned gray, the scent of scorched stone clinging to the packhouse like smoke after battle. Every wolf who had witnessed the night's confrontation carried whispers in their throats and fear in their eyes. Arya sat on the balcony floor, her hands blistered, her skin still smoldering faintly where the fire had burst from her. She stared at them, numb, remembering the heat, the look in Kale's eyes, the smile on Draven's bloodied mouth. The door creaked. Kale entered, shoulders bowed, his expression shadowed with exhaustion. His wolf prowled just beneath his skin, restless, angry, hurt. "You should have stayed in the chamber," he said quietly. She flinched. "He came to me. What was I supposed to do?" His eyes lifted, burning gold. "You were supposed to call for me. Trust me. Not unleash whatever that," he gestured to her hands, "was. Half the pack thinks you're a goddess. The other half thinks you're a curse. And you," she whispered. He closed his eyes, jaw tightening. "I think I don't know you anymore." The words cut deeper than claws. Arya rose, her body trembling. "I saved your life. You also nearly burned me alive." His voice cracked on the last word, as if the memory still seared him. She wanted to argue, to scream that she hadn't chosen this power, that she never asked to carry fire in her veins, but the weight of the night pressed on her shoulders. From below, voices rose. Wolves arguing, shouting. A meeting had already formed without Kale's order, a dangerous sign. "They're dividing," Kale muttered. "Some want you named Luna immediately. Others want you banished." Arya's stomach dropped. "Banished? They fear you'll bring ruin. That Draven's prophecy is true, that you'll crown yourself in blood." She clenched her fists, heat flickering at her fingertips. "I never asked for this crown. I never wanted any of it." Kale studied her, his gaze torn between love and fear. "And yet it follows you." Silence stretched, broken only by the storm's distant rumble. Finally Kale turned away. "I need to speak to the council. Stay here. Don't leave this room." Her chest tightened. "You don't trust me." He paused at the door. "I don't trust them." His voice dropped. "And I don't trust him. Draven will come back. He always does." The door shut, leaving her alone with the echo of his absence. The council chamber was packed beyond its walls. Elders sat stiff and stern, their silver hair glinting in the dim light, while younger wolves crowded the edges, eyes feverish with fear or worship. Kale stood before them, his body rigid. Draven trespassed, attacked me, and tried to take what is mine. That is the truth. Murmurs rippled. One elder, Marcellus, slammed a hand on the table. And yet it was she who ended the fight, not you. What does that say about your strength, Kale? Kale's wolf snarled inside him, but he kept his voice steady. It says she is more dangerous than even I realized. Some nods, some hisses. Another elder leaned forward. Dangerous, or chosen. She carries power we have never seen. Perhaps she is meant to be Luna, to guide us into a new age. She's human, Marcellus spat. No human can lead wolves. She's not just human anymore, someone whispered. The chamber buzzed with division. Kale's control slipped, his claws digging into the wood. You will not decide this for me. She is mine to protect, mine to claim or reject. No council will dictate the bond of an alpha. But even as he spoke, doubt coiled in his gut. Back in her chamber, Arya felt the walls pressing in. Banished, claimed, crowned. Every path seemed like a prison. A knock startled her. She opened the door to find Leora, a young Omega with wide eyes and trembling hands. My lady, she whispered, glancing around nervously. They're saying the Alpha might cast you out. But there are others, wolves who believe in you. They want to see you. Tonight. Arya's pulse quickened. Where? The ruins beyond the northern ridge. They say it's where the first Luna once walked. Fear and hope warred inside her. If she went, she risked Kale's wrath. But if she stayed, the council could strip her of everything. Her fire stirred. Destiny called.